There aren't too many North American cities as beautiful as Toronto. Its lakeside locale and cutting-edge skyline blend beautifully. But make no mistake, it's not all about aesthetics. This city is sports mad. Stick and ball categories and motor racing, they love it all. And it's IndyCar's international home. They've been scorching the streets around Exhibition Place since the mid-1980s. James Hinchcliffe, who won last week in Iowa, continues the proud tradition of Canadian drivers in this event. But this year it's even more special as he has one of his best friends alongside him. Robert Wickens, another Ontario native, makes his first IndyCar start here, and the demands on both of the Schmidt-Peterson races off track has been immense. Race time will bring some respite. Championship leader Scott Dixon got sideways yesterday in qualifying, and while it looked spectacular, it may have been what stopped him from starting on the pole position. That honour went to his title rival Josef Newgarden. A perfectly timed and executed final qualifying lap from the Penske driver sees him start in the prime spot for the first time up here and is the launch pad for a potential third win north of the border. Welcome to IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon, where we get you ready for a wild ride on the streets of TO. And what a beautiful day it is. It's pretty warm and humid, to be honest, but we couldn't ask for more, and there again is a spectacular crowd here north of the border. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with you, trackside, ready to go for round 12 of the 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series. And when you look around and you think about the history of the races here on the streets of Toronto, all the way back to that very first pole position from Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal's win in the inaugural event in 1986, and all the way through until today, a lot of IndyCar's racing royalty have featured here on these streets, and many of them succeeded. And that's just one of the reasons that this beautiful town of Toronto really embraces this event. We're getting ready to get going, but let's get you up to speed with what's been going on. And something that started all the way back on the streets of St. Petersburg earlier this year was this ongoing rivalry between Canadian Robert Wickens and Andretti Autosport's Alexander Rossi. And yes, it happened again this weekend in practice, so get ready for the next chapter, the next round. How about this? There have been some wild rides, and particularly from the two Canadian drivers. There are three, by the way, in this race, but the two from Schmidt-Peterson, qualifying didn't go to plan for either Robert Wickens or James Hinchcliffe. They'll be coming through the pack today, but I tell you what, it was the opposite for Josef Newgarden, the reigning race champion and series champion, because he was magic in qualifying yesterday to put it on the pole position, get that Verizon P1 award right at the most appropriate time, and of course starts in the best possible position. But interestingly enough though, he starts alongside the championship leader and the guy he's fighting for this title, Scott Dixon. He edged closer to Dixon last week in Iowa. He looked good to win the race until we got an unexpected finish.
Great.
Racing in Iowa, let's go! And it's Willpower who takes the lead.
Josef's got a run here.
There is a new leader, Josef Newgarden.
Now, Josef Newgarden looking unstoppable.
We're the fastest car on the racetrack. We are catching the leader big time.
How many passes do you think have happened on track today?
Feels like thousands to me.
Over 800 passes. Newgarden's day at the moment, but has the mayor of Hinchtown got something to say about it?
That's the leader right in front of you. Go get him.
James Hinchcliffe takes it to Newgarden
Still there, clear.
and now takes off.
Attaboy. All right, we are P1. How is Hinch ahead?
He's been in a second and a half, 3 seconds behind us. Here's the guy.
Oh, what's happened to Ed Carpenter?
Yellow.
Who are going to be the takers for tires?
5 to go here, bud. What do you think? You want some rubber?
I don't think you have enough time, man.
I don't think so either, buddy. I think we're going to stay up.
3 laps to go. Josef Newgarden comes to pit road.
Now Wickens has come in.
They might run out of time.
Are we going green this time?
Negative.
Almost guaranteed podiums for Newgarden and Wickens have now evaporated.
Please tell me we're on the podium still. Please tell me.
Nope, that's a negative. A P5.
Are you kidding me? Why did we pit?
Calm down. We'll talk about it when you get back.
The mayor of Hinchtown will go to victory lane.
Light him up, baby.
Woo! Boys, thank you so much. Feels good.
James is part of a very interesting list of Canadian race winners. Alex Tagliani, Jacques Villeneuve, that's Jack's uncle, if you take it that way. The late Greg Moore, there's JV up there. Scott Goodyear and Patrick Carpentier with 5 wins apiece, and Hinch is all alone on 6. but we're being a little bit selfish here. We've got a bit of a surprise. Have a look at this. The all-time best Canadian IndyCar driver, Paul Tracy, with 31 career wins. Lots of points there. And speaking of points, how do the championship points look with 6 to go coming into this 12th round? Well, Dixon, damage control, big time at Iowa. He did very well. He only lost, he lost more than he would like to, but not too many. His lead is 32. And then Rossi still in third, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and then Will Power. So let's talk more about the championship leader. Let's hear from Scott Dixon. He's standing by with Kevin Lee.
Diff, you nailed it. It was damage control for Scott last week, because just about everything that went wrong could have went wrong. A better car this week, looking for championship number 5. How much does that experience in these battles help you down the stretch?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Iowa was one of those weekends, we had the wrong tires on the car. We had, gearbox issues. The car in general wasn't that good. But the PNC Bank car has been fast all weekend here. We've had good speed. I think we've been, fastest in just about all the practices. Obviously, we came up a little short in qualifying, and that was my fault. Messed up turn 5, lost about 3 or 4 tenths, and then had to wave off the lap. But, apart from that, I think we would have been able to try and snatch the pole. But, good job by Josef. They struggled at the start of the weekend and then came through strong. But starting on the front row is still great starting position. Hopefully we can pull that number 9 up just one more spot. That's all we need, and try and extend that points lead. But as I've been saying all year, the competition right now in the Rise IndyCar Series is through the roof. Any little mistake is going to cost you big. So we'll have to knuckle down and try and get the most of it.
Diff, the championship leader has been smoking fast all weekend.
Yeah, we'll look to see what Scott can do in this race. 2 gentlemen who join me now have been victorious here on the streets of Toronto. Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy. Townsend, I want to start with you first, and I want to talk about Josef Newgarden. People could say, don't get too carried away, guys. It was only qualifying. It was just pole position. He only got a bonus point. But I know that you were very impressed with the way that he executed that lap. What does that speak to you? What does that tell you about Newgarden's state of mind?
Well, Leo, I think it tells me that Josef Newgarden is hungry right now, and he can smell blood. Dixon lost 12 points of his championship lead at Iowa, and he has a raging appetite right now for points, and it's demonstrated by moves like this. This was a few weeks ago at Road America, going after the pole, final corner, last lap of qualifying, just barely drops a wheel at the exit, and that was enough to give him pole. And then here at Toronto, last corner, last lap, right out to the wall, millimeter between his left rear and the wall, and he got another point for that pole position. So that sheen for the 2017 champion has worn off. He's hungry. He's going after it.
And Paul, no disrespect to the others, but people are already starting to whittle this down to a Dixon versus Newgarden fight for this title. What do you have to say about Dixon at the moment, given last weekend and given how quick he's been this weekend?
Well, Dixon is the polar opposite to most of the other drivers on the race circuit. He's super smooth. You don't see him dropping wheels in the grass. You don't see him spinning out. You don't see him going in the runoff. And he is going to be super smooth all the way through. He doesn't make mistakes. And today is so hot, and it's going to be so slippery, and dehydration could become a factor. He is probably one of the fittest guys in the field. So watch out for Scott today.
I think where we can rub our hands together, fellas, is both of those drivers have been successful here on the streets of Toronto. They love competing on this track, and they start on the front row alongside each other. We've already heard from Scott Dixon. When we come back to IndyCar Live, it's time to hear from the guy who should have, many think, won last weekend in Iowa, but he didn't. However, he's still in a very positive frame of mind. That's Josef Newgarden when we come back.
You're watching IndyCar Live, brought to you by Verizon, the best network and the best unlimited.
Looking, turn 1, he slides, there's contact, wicked spins.
The Long Beach Grand Prix belongs to Alexander Rossi.
Rossi on the outside. Alexander Rossi with the move of the race.
Rossi is looking racy.
Oh, big run here.
Look at Wickens trying to challenge Rossi. Rossi having none of that.
Side by side,
Oh,
Sato
contact.
and Rossi.
We want the elbows out a little bit. Don't hate the game. Play the game.
Alexander Rossi is always a talking point, of course, because he won the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, but he makes daring moves and he's always a contender. Well, we're going to put him in the spotlight again right now and test his skills in the kitchen. This is a new competition we're running this year across 6 drivers. The winner gets to donate $25,000 to the charity, $25,000 that is, to the charity of their choice. The drivers have been having a lot of fun with it. Hope you enjoy it. This is the latest installment of What You're Cooking, presented by Butterball.
Welcome back to Toronto Exhibition Place. where Firestone has brought their street course primary and alternate tires, which of course in IndyCar competition, once you get to race time, you have to run both these two compounds in the race. Now we've come to know the red sidewall. That's the more aggressive tire that gives you the higher speed, but not as much durability. Now in a race today when it's this hot, you're going to see a lot of running of the primaries, the blacks. That's because they have much more durability, and the teams believe that the crossover, in other words, when is the red tire not as fast as the black, is about 10 laps. So therefore, almost every driver today will be starting on the alternates, and here's why. You want the fastest tire when you're up on the start, close to other cars to try and make up position. But there are 4 gamblers today, 4 people that will decide to start on the primaries. What's the gamble? After 10 laps, these cars will start to slow, and then they can potentially go in for the pounce. Firestone, the official tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone. Speaking of strategy, that was the name of the game here last year.
It's round 12 of 17 in the 2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. It's the Honda Indy Toronto.
Life will be no highway today. This, drivers will tell you, is the most challenging track of the season.
Dixon with a narrow points lead over Castro Neves, but all those Penske guys fighting each other.
And here we go. There's Castro Neves coming to the inside. He'll get around his teammate. Castro Neves into turn 1 from 3rd to 1st for the lead.
Will Power made contact. Matter of fact, the front right makes contact with Scott Dixon. Will Power's not going to make it out of turn number 3.
With that one move, 3 corners into this race, Scott Dixon goes 35 points behind Castro Neves.
What a swing in the championship. It is going to be shaken up before we're done today. In a lockup for Kanan, and he's going to go up. And are we going to get a yellow?
All right, full course, full course.
Winner, the leader's going to be in trouble because they stayed out. Newgarden dodges the bullet. Josef Newgarden uses strategy to his advantage, and the championship is even tighter. Josef Newgarden has won again on the streets of Toronto.
And with that win here on the streets of Toronto, Josef Newgarden kicked off an impressive championship run last year. Joseph, with today's poll, are we starting to see that same trend again this year?
Well, I hope so. You know, it's a little bit easier, I guess, this year starting from pole, but that doesn't make the whole race easy. You know, things can bite you really quick around this track. You can make a mistake pretty easily, get caught out by a yellow situation. I know I've been on the good end of a yellow a couple times around this place, so we're just going to try and play our strategy right. I got the best guys behind me. You know, Tim does such a great job for me in the pits, and then all the guys working on the car. I mean, they're absolute studs. So I don't have any nerves about that. I know I've got the crew support me, and this Hitachi car has been fast, so we're just going to try and put good use to it today.
Yeah, Lee, he's won 2 of the last 3 here, and I think he's a good bet again today.
And speaking of Team Penske drivers, Josef's teammate, one of his teammates, Will Power, will carry our Verizon streaming camera today. And a reminder, you can go inside IndyCar all season long by downloading IndyCar Mobile exclusively from Verizon, America's best streaming network. So Katie mentioned that Josef Newgarden has won 2 of the last 3. Who are some of the other winners in today's field? Seabass, Sebastian Bourdais has been victorious here multiple times, and he loves racing here on this track. So too does Will Power. He feels he has the right stuff and could do it again today. We will see about that. And how about Ryan Hunter-Reay, Captain America? He's seen the checkered flag first, and Scott Dixon, that memorable double-header victory in 2013. And there's Josef, who has the best record of late. 2 of the last 3. Can he make it 3 in the last 4 today? We will find out. So Townsend and Paul have joined me again. Paul, we've been talking about the headline guys, but there have been some other quick races this weekend. Names like Spencer Pigot, Takuma Sato, Marco Andretti, who have been doing well in practice, didn't qualify all that well. Do they have a shot today?
Absolutely. Anything can happen on the streets of Toronto. Sato's been very quick all weekend, but the guy who's been silently quick and who is super hungry, watch out for Simon Pagenaud. He's up front right now, so look out for him on the start.
All 3 Penske cars did qualify very well. Townsend, you hear year after year, really, and you know this all too well from your career, drivers say this track at times can be gnarly. It's tough. How so? Why?
Well, because I think Toronto uniquely kind of begs you into shortcutting the corner, and you'll go tighter and tighter, take more and more curbing, and then it'll bite you. I mean, this place will jack you up if you get too greedy. This is Zach Veach in qualifying. Jumps that curb a little too much, spins them around. Then James Hinchcliffe, the exact same situation. Again, it kind of pulls you in, suckers you in, and then you finally just take a little too much, and it just gets all over you, and all of a sudden you're backwards.
Can you imagine if we saw that in qualifying? Can you imagine if we see that in the race today? Oh boy. So we're getting you closer to the green flag here north of the border in the only international race in the Verizon IndyCar Series. And coming up, something a little lighter heart and some light fare. Alexander Rossi in the next episode of What You Cooking. Let's see how good he is in the kitchen. Alexander Rossi is always a talking point, of course, because he won the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, but he makes daring moves and he's always a contender. Well, we're going to put him in the spotlight again right now and test his skills in the kitchen. This is a new competition we're running this year across 6 drivers. The winner gets to donate $25,000 to the charity, $25,000 that is, to the charity of their choice. The drivers have been having a lot of fun with it. Hope you enjoy it. This is the latest installment of What You Cooking, presented by Butterball.
Welcome to Indianapolis. Today I'm going to make for you Rossi's risotto. So the first step is we're going to dice some mushrooms, garlic, and shallots that will fry up in the oil later. We're going to move on to the star of the show, the Butterball dinner sausage. Now that the turkey sausage is cut up, we can pan fry it while we get the risotto on the stove. There's really no recipe that I have. I kind of just eyeball it. So this is 1 cup. With the heat on, you know, you don't want to burn the rice or the garlic or the shallots, but you want to get all of the risotto rice coated in some olive oil. We'll add some just standard white wine, and we will add the chicken stock. Once it boils, you just let it simmer for a bit, and we'll let the rice cook. I'm going to add some tomatoes to add some nutritional value, as well as a bit of color. Add the dinner sausage as well. So we'll let this heat up for a bit, and add some salt and pepper. And add probably the best part and a necessity for every good dinner, butter and Parmesan cheese. Stir that in, give it its nice creamy texture that risotto is known for, and then we'll be ready to plate it up. So I actually started cooking this when I was living in Spain, and the food in Spain is a little weird. My teammate at the time started messing around with cooking ourselves, and we kind of stumbled upon making risotto all the time. And that, my friends, is how you make Rossi's risotto. I think with the exquisiteness of this dish, it'll definitely be enough to advance me to the finals.
Oh, quite the confidence. First you win the Indianapolis 500, now you're calling your shot to make it to the finals of What You Cooking.
Absolutely. Did you see how brilliant I performed in the kitchen? I was just watching it right here and I was like, wow, this is like my second best talent.
Second best talent. All right, I'm going to get started and we'll see what you got as far as a score is concerned, Katie.
But I actually heard Robert Wickens offered to throw a few extra ingredients in there for you.
Rob offers a lot of things. Not too interested in it, to be honest. But what do you think? It's pretty good. I mean, you only have one option because I got rid of the other ones.
So I'm going to take a bite now.
The other way. I think I might need these down here.
Can
I might give you a little bit of a break because I've been bugging with the same question over and over, but it's been entertaining for us.
I mean, she threw it in there, kind of, in a way.
Yeah. All right,
you're welcome.
Here's what I'm thinking.
Wait, before you decide.
Yeah.
I've got is this a Benjamin? Who's on this? Who's on the $10 bill? Jefferson.
That's only a
Hamilton.
No, that's not going to be nearly good enough. And
Hamilton.
For trying to influence the judges with straight hard cash, we have an 8.
Kev, you've asked for influence on other weeks, so to make up
more subtle.
for your lack, I'm going to give him a 10.
$10 is not nearly
so that's the finals,
enough.
Right?
Is this
it's going to be close.
What's the highest score?
19.
By who?
Newgarden and Pagano.
But I'm ahead of Ryan?
You are ahead of Ryan. Unfortunately, the Butterball spokesman, you're ahead of him. So that's good for you.
That's all right. I'm pretty annoyed to be behind Joseph, though, yet again. Story of my current life.
We might have a revote by the time we get to the finals. All right, you're pretty good as far as the race is concerned. Qualified 5th, but I think you feel even better than that for the race?
I do. I mean, I really think we had a car to fight for the front row. Bit of a strategy error on our part. But yeah, the 27 Napa Honda's been strong, and we're going to need a big day to hopefully come out on top.
I want to see this. I'm giving him the $10 back. I did not. Maybe Katie gets the 10 for her 10. Lee, an 18 for Alexander Rossi.
So a little bit of frustration that he's not up the front there, but still good fun. Hey, how about this Canadian trio? You want to hear from them? You bet. You don't want to miss what they've got to say about this legendary Toronto event and their respective chances.
You're watching IndyCar Live, brought to you by Verizon, the best network and the best unlimited.
Welcome back. IndyCar Live continues. Do you know, when Robert Wickens joined his good friend James Hinchcliffe at Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports earlier this season, it formed IndyCar's unofficial Team Canada. They are fan favourites. They're effective on the track and off. And earlier this week, we sent Paul Tracy, our own PT, the only Canadian to win this event. He sat down with Hinch and Wiki at the new Hotel X Toronto by Library Hotel Collection, downtown Toronto's only lakefront urban resort.
It's been a long time since a Canadian has won here in Toronto. Are you guys going to make it happen this weekend? Which one of you is going to be?
Either or is fine, man.
We'll take it.
We almost had a double podium in Iowa. So
That's true.
We need to redeem that one.
Was it 03 that you did it?
Last time was 03.
Last time was 03. So yeah, it's been a minute. We should probably get on that.
Well, how relieved are you after last week with all the momentum now coming into Toronto and the frustration through Indy and all the mistakes there to finally have everything go right?
Yeah, honestly, it was one of those great days, man. I mean, for most of the race, you know, we got a good start. We got up to, like, I think second in the first stint from 11th, and Josef was so strong, we kind of thought we were just racing for second. And then it all just sort of came good in that final stint. They made a little tweak on that last stop, and, you know, to get that win, especially like you said, with everything that happened at Indy, it was big relief for the guys.
Now, you've been obviously frustrated this year that a win hasn't come. You've been, like, so close, and it's kind of just slipped through your fingers a couple times.
Okay, this lap, Stuart, to screw this all up, so just sit tight. It's a white flag.
Please tell me we're on the podium still.
Nope, that's a negative for P5.
Are you kidding me? That is 100% unacceptable.
Last week on the radio, you were pretty hot after the race, but is that just because you want to win so bad and you've been so close?
To be honest, that one, I mean, it wasn't the fact that I didn't win in Iowa. It was the fact that I thought we fought so hard to get on a podium, and I honestly thought I was going to struggle to get a top 10 there. And we just kept chipping away. We got better and better, and then finally in that final stint, passed for third, and then yellow came out, and I was just like, perfect. It could finish right now. A podium's a win for me at this race. You felt like you worked so hard for that, and then you just like hand something away and never even get a chance to redeem yourself. Was kind of, you know,
yeah.
I was pretty upset about that.
You've been so strong, like right out of the gate. Do you think being in Europe, racing DTMs, do you think that transition to an Indy car is easier from that?
For sure. I mean, just the fact that, I mean, a lot of people, I think, underestimate the level of DTM and what it actually is as a championship. So the fact that I've raced professionally for 6 years, racing at such a high level for so long, I definitely have an advantage over someone jumping in from Indy Lights. It's just because, like, the big thing as a professional, as you know, Paul, when you make it to the top, you don't have time for yourself.
Yeah, like the three of us were all from Toronto coming in this weekend. I mean, what do you feel the most pressure from? Do you feel the pressure from the media, the fans, or more from yourself to get a result here? Because for me, this was like the most important race of the year. I put more emphasis on this race than any other race in the championships.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, there's extra attention, there's extra pressure from the outside, but nobody's going to put as much pressure on you as you're going to put on yourself.
I've been in some pretty cutthroat driver development programs, and everyone thought, like when I was on the Red Bull junior team, everyone's like, oh, how do you deal with the pressure of knowing that if you don't win, you're fired? You know, and I was always like, well, I'm always my biggest critic. I'm always the person putting the most pressure on myself. Like there was times where Red Bull was actually pretty happy with my race, but like I wasn't happy with it. And I've just always been such a tough critic for myself, and I'm very methodical in how I approach things. And sometimes I can probably get in my own head a little too much and get very frustrated for almost no reason. But you know, like both of you guys, I mean, 100%, like I put the most pressure on myself every single time because I want to be perfect, and when I'm not, I'm actually pretty upset with myself.
Well, this is the most important question. So whoever wins Sunday, where's the after party going to be on Sunday night?
The Addison, 10 p.m.
The Addison?
Yep.
All right, everybody listening, the Addison.
Yeah. See you there. Excellent job.
Right. Thanks, PT.
Really nice to hear from James and Robert when they've had such a busy week, and they're trying to emulate what Paul did. That's by winning
this race. You've been watching IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon. When we come back to Exhibition Place, yeah, look, the drivers are in their cars. We'll go racing. IndyCar has found an international home on the streets of Toronto. With its inviting turn one and long back straight, year after year, Exhibition Place has always put on a show. The first to win here was Bobby Rahal in 1986, while fellow American Michael Andretti leads the all-time win list with 7 victories. But over the course of 33 runnings, only one Canadian has ever won.
And the crowd will come to their feet to welcome home native son Paul Tracy, who will win. You are the king of Toronto, man.
Today, his countryman James Hinchcliffe comes off a win last week in Iowa and leads a trio of drivers back to their native land in search to become the next winner at the Toronto Indy. In a city that looks like this, and after that introduction, there is so much to get excited about as we welcome you to NBCSN's coverage of the Verizon IndyCar Series. This is the Honda Indy Toronto from Exhibition Place, and the crowd has filled the stands nicely. Let's go trackside for the command to get things going.
Toronto race fans, are you ready? It's time for those most famous words in all of sports. Please welcome your Grand Marshal from the hit show The Bachelor, Vanessa Grimaldi.
Drivers, start your engines.
And if you weren't with us for IndyCar Live, we mentioned right at the top of the show the heat, the humidity, and the track temperature. It's going to be a tough afternoon's work here in Toronto.
This is a tough enough place, Lee, when the temperatures are reasonable. Today is one of the hottest we've ever seen. And down in turn one, look at the difference from last year, Graham Rahal. This year, Josef Newgarden. They've repaved this whole section. You can go in much deeper on the brakes, and it's a lot smoother across the middle of the apex. But now, as you go down to turn 3, the big difference this year, right now, we're tracking temperatures in the brake zone, Paul, of over 130 degrees. And this is last year with these two cats going at it.
This is the danger zone down here. Watch on the first lap. Will Power was taken out last week. Hunter Ray gives a little body check back. But we get to turn 8, Townsend. There have been a half a dozen cars off in the tires or spun out here.
I have always thought this is the most difficult corner in street racing because it's so bumpy. And if you take too much on the way in, like Robert Wickens did, or James Hinchcliffe, it'll bite you big. This was at the exit. Hinch climbing the curbs. Shortcut there for Hinch. It didn't bite him on that lap, but that's the fastest way around if you can hang on. And you can see through this section, turns 10 and 11, just how violent it is on the steering wheel. You're riding the bull the whole way around.
Takuma Sato said he liked the front straight being resurfaced because your eyeballs don't bounce around anymore. We'll see how it goes. Time to check in with Kev.
Well, this is the most unique pit lane in IndyCar. 3 turns, serpentine, and it's really challenging for a couple of those in the back. Matthias Lace and Max Chilton. And up here through this curve, you're going one way and you got to get around Zach Veach's car. Tony Kanaan has the toughest spot. The front 6, not too bad though at pit out, Jan.
And one driver you may need to keep an eye on today is Takuma Sato. Yes, he's only qualified in 7th, but he's been ultra fast in practice. And most importantly, he has showed that he can make moves during practice and move through the field. Remember, he's coming here with a lot of confidence after a season-best 3rd last week in Iowa. Katie?
Jan, Connor Daly is no stranger to stepping into a new car for some one-off races. This weekend, you're going to find him in the number 88 for Harding Racing, and he's even surprised himself with the results. An 11th place in qualifying. Then this morning, he finally broke into the top 10, and he said, the advantage we have is these engineers are open to making any changes I want to make. Today, he expects another top 10 finish out of himself, and with that, he hopes his full-time prospects for 2019 could be looking up. Robin?
Katie, we've been coming here since 1986. Other than Long Beach, this is the second longest running street race IndyCar's ever had. The reason? All these fans. The Canadians are some of the best fans we got. This year they got 2 reasons to cheer. James Hinchcliffe or Robert Wickens. When we look at the schedule, the IndyCar Series is based in the Midwest. That's where our fan base is. The second biggest fan base we got right here in Toronto. And we need about 3 more races a year in Canada, and we'd have that many more fans. Lee Diffie?
How does that make you feel, PT?
Oh, it's great. We've got a great crowd this weekend. The promoter's done an amazing job and unbelievable weather all week.
We're all set. There's only one thing left, the green flag. That's next. We welcome you back to Toronto at the appropriate time. IndyCar racing north of the border. Josef Newgarden, Scott Dixon on the front row. The top two in the championship are the top two on this starting grid as they start to pack up, ready to go. Nice and orderly. Keep your eye on the black and white Verizon car for Team Penske on the right. Set to go north of the border. IndyCar racing in Canada. Let's do it.
Green, 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 green.
Inside move. Look at Rossi in the blue and red car, and Will Power on the inside of his teammate Simon Pagenaud.
Super aggressive move by Will Power. He used up Pagenaud. Now we go down to the danger zone, Townsend. This is where the trouble could happen. Look at Dixon.
Newgarden knew that he was coming. Dixon's trying to go around the outside in turn 3. That's the long way. That's the hard way. Hunter Ray ahead of Power. Then Alexander Rossi and Takuma Sato racy early.
Terrific action up front. Dixon tried to make it stick around the outside. We've seen that happen in the past, but he didn't have the grip. And further back, Hinchcliffe and his teammate are wheel to wheel, side by side. This can't work.
Oh,
a touch.
The teammates touch.
They're still almost side by side.
Here comes Marco Andretti now.
Oh, look at Alexander Rossi, turn 8.
Oh, look at these guys. You're not going to get through there two abreast. Look at Sato. Out around the outside. What a move.
I don't think we've ever seen a single pass through that new section. We saw about 3 happening simultaneously. Here comes
Sato.
Rossi.
Sato on Rossi now. Got to run off the last corner. Rossi will use the push to pass here. He's right on his back bumper. Watch for the push to pass.
What a wild opening lap. What a fabulous opening lap. Rossi is trying to make a move here on Sato. Long back straight. Lakeshore Drive up to turn 3. Sato defends in that MyJack car.
Wickens and Marco Andretti working side by side. Marco might be able to hold on. No, he backs out.
A smart move by Marco. He got pinched a little bit by Wickens. That was going to be a collision, but smartly he backs out. So here we're on board with Wickens as he's now moving up on the back of Pagenaud, who's faded back really quick by that move by Power, pushed him back 3 positions.
Paul, he went back 3rd to 7th. So that first lap was costly for the Frenchman. Now James Hinchcliffe starting to line up Marco Andretti. Let's ride with Hinch. The Lucas Oil onboard will show you how much smoother it is down this front straight.
Really nice lineup. Everybody lined up. So you see the cars jump out. Now watch for the silver car. Will Power dives for the inside. He cuts off Rossi and then stuffs it down the inside of his teammate and pushes him out wide.
You know where Power learned that move, Paul? His teammate Castroneves did the same thing last year into turn 1 on the start.
This is what it looked like for Hinchcliffe. Look to the left. Look to the left. Wheel-to-wheel contact between the 2 Canadian teammates.
Rossi coming back. Rossi's trying to get Wickens again.
This is a replay of Rossi on Sato. Good action there. And now Rossi's trying to reel him back in. Just looking at push to pass usage so far, Will Power the only one to not touch the button in the top 5.
Wickens is now pulled up onto the back of Will Power. He looked like he might have a run here. Push to pass comes on for Will Power, so he knows Wickens is right behind him.
So the order is Newgarden, Dixon, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Will Power, then Takuma Sato is one of the biggest movers. Jan?
Even though it's very early on in the race, only 4 of 85, people already thinking about what do I want to do today for pit strategy. Once you make up these positions on the red alternates, as we watch with Hinchcliffe, he is now thinking, okay, I need to maintain my pace on these so I can get to the window. Lap 17 is the earliest that you can stop today and stay. That's not tires, that's fuel. If you stop on 17, you're going to be fuel save all the way home. So if you're on alternates right now, try to keep the tires under you and wait a little while.
Just picking up with what Jan was just saying, some people might even really gamble early. I was told by one engineer, you might see a dumpster diver, as they're referred to, around lap 10. You have to be careful, though. You don't go a lap down when you do that, when you pit early. Marco Andretti there, the biggest mover of the race so far. Lee, he's up 5 positions since the start.
Still getting worked over pretty hard from James Hinchcliffe though, Katie.
And Marco Andretti said this weekend has felt much like that Detroit weekend. If you flash back to that, that's where he scored his very first pole in 5 years. But he said yesterday in qualifying, we just peaked way too early on those softer red tires, which he's also on right now, by the way. But the team didn't make any changes to the car today. It is sunny and dry, and Marco is extremely happy with the car, how the car is behaving. We expect him to improve many positions today, guys.
Connor Daly with a moment there. Did you notice that in the 88 Harding Racing entry? There he is there.
Yeah, he lost 4 positions on whatever happened. He was running in 14th just in front of Bourdais, and it looked like he might have locked up and just almost gotten into the tires, but he got out of it, as now he holds everybody off here in 18th position. But here we are with Dixon just stalking the back of the second place in the championship. Now he'll just ride here and hopefully wait for the pit stops, is what he's always done.
This is the PNC Bank onboard camera view for Scott Dixon.
Coasting, saving fuel.
And in this early frantic going, Scott Dixon has already grabbed the Tag Heuer fastest lap. We'll see what that looks like at the end of the 85th lap.
You know, Scott Dixon's so smart, so experienced, the most successful driver in this field. And Paul, you just talked about coasting there, saving fuel. It's not that he runs the risk of not making it to the end, but if every bit he can save, it just opens up the flexibility for strategy and potentially shortens the amount of time he has to sit in his pit box as they fill him back up.
First and second, less than 1 second separating them. Then back to Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's quietly been very effective in third. We pick up the 12 Verizon Chevy of Will Power, and Will's carrying the Verizon streaming camera today. You can go inside IndyCar all season long by downloading IndyCar Mobile exclusively from Verizon, America's best streaming network.
We listen to the throttle here. Listen to him chop off here. Here, coasting, coasting, coasting. Normally they brake almost past that bridge, Townsend, so he's in fuel-saving mode to try to go an extra lap over these guys.
Sebastian Bourdais on Graham Rahal. Let's go for a ride with Graham.
You know, we've talked about the size of Graham Rahal's steering wheel in the past. It can't help you any more than it does here, Paul. With all these bumps, the wider the diameter of the steering wheel as we ride with the Russo onboard camera, the more leverage you have to deal with the bumps and the shock coming through the steering system.
Yeah, a lot of guys will run a little bit smaller wheel, but they have less caster. This bigger wheel allows you to have more leverage on the steering wheel and makes it easier to steer, which allows Graham to run more caster, which will give you more front grip, but a lot of these smaller guys just can't handle more caster because it makes the steering heavier and they just can't deal with it for a full race distance.
To one of the 3 Canadians in this Toronto IndyCar race. This is Robert Wickens, also carrying a Verizon camera, just like Will Power. What a wild start he had. Can you imagine if that collision between himself and James Hinchcliffe was worse? We don't want to think that, nor do the tens of thousands here. Wishing them on, and also French-Canadian Zach Clayman de Mello. We'll see Zach a little bit later on. We're going to go for a ride on board the Lucas Oil on board and inside the Hinchmobile.
And as you watch him go off at turn number 1 for James Hinchcliffe, they tried an experiment in the final practice this morning that did not work. He said, we've had to revert back. We keep looking for the magic on this car, and we haven't been able to find it. In fact, his teammate, Robert Wickens, says, you know, as a team, we're just underachieving. And that's why I'm frustrated. At home, we want to have a good performance, but we just don't have the setup we need right now for Hinchcliffe and Wickens.
And countering that feeling and outlook is this guy here, the Hitachi #1 team of Josef Newgarden. He said, you know what, we haven't had to do a whole lot this weekend. The car rolled off really well and it's performed fantastically well.
You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by United Rentals, official equipment rental services provider of IndyCar and proud sponsor of Graham Rahal. And by Honda, an official vehicle of the Verizon IndyCar Series. No need to guess where we are when you see that magical skyline and the amazing CN Tower as we welcome you back to NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar here in Toronto. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy with you. It is Josef Newgarden, the pole sitter, who has led every step of the way thus far. He's being hounded by Scott Dixon, and now we see some early takers on pit lane. It's Ed Jones from Chip Ganassi Racing first.
Yes, and of course, this is what Townsend was talking about. There are some teams, some engineers that want to take risk. It sounds awfully quiet. Has he killed it? Yes, he has. Oh, I can't believe it. He makes an early stop, and it comes grinding to a halt with no fire. Ed Jones, this strategy has just backfired.
Total disaster, because he's going to run the risk of going a lap down. Josef Newgarden, the leader, is over in turn 8. You'll see him come into view. I don't think Ed Jones is going to make it to the pit outline. We're about to find out.
His front tires look really grained as well.
Josef Newgarden continues to control this race in the early going. It really didn't start out that way this weekend. They weren't awful, but they weren't as good as they would like, but they've gotten better every single session to the point where he won the pole on that last lap yesterday. Now, we're to the point of the race where you're really starting to see drop-off on the red, softer tires, and everyone was telling me a big key is going to be once we get past lap 10 or 12, as we see Newgarden working to lap Ed Jones here, and he will not make it easy for him coming around. So the leader gets caught up a little bit. But the key here, these final laps in this first stint, which is likely to be the only one on reds, who's better here might determine the race.
Double incentive there for Ed Jones to stay on the lead lap and to help out his teammate Scott Dixon, who is now closed on Newgarden.
To help him out, he did. He nearly put him in the wall. So Ed Jones did his job. It was absolute must for him to keep Newgarden behind him, and now his teammate can attack him. But Ed has got a heavier car, he's got more fuel, he's got sticker tires. He's got to keep him behind and try to help his teammate.
Big chances for overtaking here. Down into turn 1 for Josef Newgarden, and then exiting 2 on the way up to 3. No luck there for Newgarden to get by Ed Jones.
Absolutely love this view. You can see Dixon got a little squirrely as the camera position sort of yawed to the right here.
Newgarden's got to run, I think. I think he's going to, no.
Now Dixon's not saving fuel. He is on the charge right now, trying to see if he can take this opportunity to make a move, because if he gets in front of Newgarden, you know Ed Jones is not going to do much to hold him up.
Exactly.
Team tactics here early on in the race. You almost think that was choreographed in the pit lane.
I hadn't thought about that until you suggested it, but I doubt it. We'll see. That was quite random.
Certainly was. He came in with no power and sat there for quite a long time to start it. It wasn't like they were in a hurry. And then he came out right in front of Newgarden. And so we see Hinchcliffe coming in.
And Jan's there. Take it away.
And this would be right about the time frame that puts you into fuel save but will bring you home. This we will start to see repeated for those who want to get out of traffic. We put the clock on James Hinchcliffe. This car is running a big wing change. That's 7.8 seconds for Hinchcliffe. Again, these are early stoppers. This will work. This is called the undercut, and we'll see what happens and how risky the rest of the field is.
Well, I think, Jan, the biggest risk comes towards the end of the race because it limits your possibilities, right? It pretty much dictates when you have to make your final stop, whereas the leaders staying out, they'll have a much wider pit window if they elect for it at the end.
The advantage for Ed Jones and for Hinchcliffe is that now that we see these guys here getting racy with each other, tire wear is coming in. If one of these guys gets into somebody and they crash, then that's a huge advantage for Hinchcliffe. He'll be the effective leader as we see Wickens now going for the undercut on the pit stop.
Let's hit our marks, make it easy for the boys.
Listening to the radio conversations, and there was a radio conversation just prior saying, don't worry, we will fix it. He didn't say specifically what changes they're going to make to the car. They can change tire pressures. We look, and there's a little bit of a wing change, and that is just 1/10 of a second faster than his teammate.
As Robert Wickens exits pit lane, there were Robert was expecting about 150 to 200 people to come from his hometown of Guelph, which is southwest of here in Toronto. He's made quite the impact on the fan base since joining the Verizon IndyCar Series, hasn't he?
And a big impact on his teammate, especially in the opening laps of this race. Wheel-to-wheel contact with fellow Canadian James Hinchcliffe, which we talked about, and I think the added pressure that he's put on Hinch, who hasn't really had a teammate historically to challenge him. All of a sudden you see Hinch delivering at Iowa, here pushing the limits, and I think it's going to be a really interesting battle, inter-team battle down the stretch as one driver versus the other tries to exercise their dominance in that team.
You know, there's always some interesting things happen at this point of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how all these pit stops play out. How long is Newgarden going to want to sit behind Ed? And what kind of mileage is Dixon making? He's losing a little bit of ground right now. That's about as far back as he's been. That's a surprise.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay maintains his third place. There's RHR over Power and Sato. Things have settled into somewhat of a rhythm now. Enjoying IndyCars in Toronto, and you can watch every IndyCar race online, on mobile, tablet, and connected TV devices with the NBC Sports app. Download it now. Download that app. Find out more at NBCSports.com. Racing up the back straight here at Toronto. 20 laps down, 65 to go, and just slowly by slowly starting to see more filter into the pits to make their first stop. We ride on board the Russo entry for Graham Rahal, and Graham has made up 5 positions from his starting spot. The biggest mover in the pack has been Tony Kanaan, making up 9.
He's on the back of Jordan King. Jordan had a big crash in morning warm-up, was into the turn 8 wall pretty hard. So pretty miraculous, Townsend, that they were able to fix that car, and he's running as well as he is in 7th place.
This is Matthias Laced, who qualified really well yesterday and has been enjoying his first weekend in an IndyCar in Toronto. Speaking of Jordan King, you know who his manager is? The 1997 winner of this event, Mark Blundell, former F1 driver, former IndyCar driver, old rival of yours, PT, and a good old friend of yours. And he's really pleased with the way that Jordan King has been going, and he said Jordan would love to stick around next year in the IndyCar Series as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here we go. Here's that yellow I was talking about.
Bourdais.
And this is a really dangerous spot at turn 1 to back up into traffic. Hunter-Reay's in the pits, we hear.
Wow. If he made the pit commit.
No
it's
yellow.
Definitely rear wing. It might be front wing. It's definitely rear wing.
Well, that rear wing stood way up. It's broke. Now it's back down, but it could fall off before it gets around the rest of the track. Hunter-Reay, Kevin.
Yeah, he's one of those that gets in, and so did Simon Pagenaud. They were planning to pit, so it's not a late call to be able to get in, but maybe an advantage right now for Ryan Hunter-Reay and Simon Pagenaud.
Thought for sure we'd see a full course yellow there, but stayed green. We've seen that a lot this year.
Well, we don't know yet. He's got to get around the track with a broken rear wing. That wing could fall off. The wing, we hear, might come off. And if that wing is off somewhere on the track, they will go full course yellow, and that will turn the order upside down for the leaders.
This is Alexander Rossi chasing Takuma Sato. What happened to Sebastian Bourdais? Second car. Whoa, there it goes.
Big piece of carbon just flew off.
Kev?
Here come the rest of the leaders, so no caution, so no huge advantage for Hunter-Reay and Pagenaud, but better safe than sorry. There's Scott Dixon coming in from second, and there's Josef Newgarden, who is easily going to beat him out and blend back in. Katie?
And as we take a look at Sebastian Bourdais in the number 18 car, we saw his accident just then. The team looks like they're looking over, trying to get that rear wing off. It took a long time to get it off as we see them put that new one back on, and we'll go back to Kevin.
Waiting to see Will Power coming in. Now he gets an easy in because the others up front, and remember the top 6 in this race are the first 6 pit stalls, so they're all together on strategy, but from talking to several of them, they were really hoping they didn't all pit at the same time because of these very tight 35-foot boxes. Here's Will Power just getting into pit lane, and the slowest pit lane because of the curves and because of the size. It's 40 miles per hour. We saw a couple go over that speed limit yesterday, and they were penalized in qualifying, so it is a painfully long trip around. Power will make his first stop. Let's see what kind of changes they do. They're going to primary Firestones. Sunoco fuel, a front wing adjustment for Will Power, and
he's going to be in good shape here too. Look, here's Newgarden, here's Dixon. Can he get out ahead of Ryan Hunter-Reay? Absolutely he can. So good work from Will Power's team.
He does, and everybody gets their pit stops in. But Townsend, there is a big piece of carbon laying somewhere in the track down at turn 3, which is the wing end plate that was broken off of the back of Bourdais' car.
Well, we're told it flew over the fence out of the competitor's way. And there's Ryan Hunter-Reay behind Spencer Pigot. Pigot has yet to make his first stop. So that should happen shortly. And I think we got the answer on why Dixon was struggling a bit to match Newgarden. When he pitted, Dixon took a lot of front wing out. So that was the oversteer that Dixon was suffering. We'll have to see how the balance hopefully improves for Dixon on the blacks.
Well, the guys who haven't pitted, Jordan King is leading Ray Hall in second. Look at this. The wing end plate flies up.
Clears the fence.
And right over the fence. So you couldn't ask for anything better to happen.
By the way, we should say that, and given the big advertising banner, that is not a spectator area. People aren't gathered back behind there, so nobody was endangered by that.
So Jordan King leading Ray Hall by a half a second, and then the gap to Newgarden right now is 2.3 seconds.
Here we go, in the draft. Spencer Pigot on Will Power. Pigot coming off his first IndyCar career podium a week ago in Iowa. But remember, he has not pitted yet. And goes wide. Ryan Hunter-Reay able to get through.
He's on old tires, so he's got a lot of speed. His car is light. It's light on fuel, but used tires. All these guys behind him are on fresh tires.
You can see a massive buildup of marbles offline already as this track is really abusive on the tires. That's where Pigot has to be careful going side by side. You can just see everywhere the marble buildup, but Pigot doing his best to try to make something happen before he has to stop. He'll lose 23 to 25 seconds on pit lane.
He had a really strong run here last year as well. So performs nicely on the streets of Toronto. Let's take a ride on board the PNC Bank machine with Scott Dixon. Here we go. Dixon kind of lurking.
Dixon's actually now on fresh tires, coming on strong as Jordan King still leading over Ray Hall. I'm surprised that these guys, Townsend, on these used tires are able to run as quick as they are.
Well, I think as you said earlier, they've got a lot less fuel in the car, so I think that counteracts the tire wear, but it looks to me like Dixon much faster, much better balance on the primary tire given their new tires, but he just seems to be that much stronger, and that's a good sign for Dixon because he'll have the choice of what he wants to finish the race on, and almost for sure that'll be the harder black tire.
We've got Bourdais in front on the verge of going a lap down as we see Hunter-Reay somehow, Powers disappeared somehow. He's gotten passed by a bunch of guys
two
after
cars.
that fantastic pit stop, and Rossi's going to have a good run right here.
Down the front straight.
It's like no power, Townsend. He just got passed easy.
Well, he looked like he was pretty slow out of the final corner, but it'd be a shame if you think back to Road America, Power having issues. Now Newgarden really under pressure. Hunter-Reay's in the tires.
End of the back straight, turn 3.
Andy stalled, rolling backwards.
Sorry, guys, just got locked up and got into the tires. My fault. Sorry. All right.
Well, this will probably cause a full course yellow.
Maybe
unless,
not.
And he's smart enough to roll up. There we go, full
There
course.
it is.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
This is the teammate to Ryan Hunter-Reay, Alexander Rossi.
Pit, sorry, pit.
You got to watch, make sure that does not go under the car and you have no steering. He'll be instantly into the wall. If that breaks off and goes under the front of the car, he will not be able to steer that car.
Not good for Jordan King. and Graham Rahal, who stayed out 28 laps from the start, and now they'll have to pit under yellow. They'll go all the way to the back of the field.
They do not pit this lap. The pits are closed.
Same situation for Spencer Pickett as well.
Yeah, Hunter Ray doesn't lose a lap. They got him started pretty quickly, so he makes it back around without losing a lap. His wing's not as damaged as his teammate. We don't know what happened to Rossi, but it's so odd that both of them at the exact same time have wing damage.
Here's the Rossi deal with Will Power. Turn 3.
Whoa. Guys,
there was already contact there, so that was well in advance of the brake zone. You can see right front lockup on Rossi's car. So they had contact at full throttle. Maybe a little game of chicken, and there's Hunter Ray. Just pure coincidence that both Andretti cars suffering damage in totally unrelated incidents.
I'm wondering if Power's got a problem. It sounded on that in-car like his car wasn't shifting properly, or it was shifting on its own.
The shift into turn 1 sounded strange.
It sounded funny, didn't it? So it sounded like he downshifted and it upshifted on his own.
They do have Power with Will Power's car, problems with Power's car. Even before the issue on track that brought out the yellow, they were contemplating whether to come in. They were grabbing parts that looked like toe links, and I'm hearing right rear was already an issue, so there's a good chance Power is going to come in here when the pits open.
Yeah, you can see his steering wheel, Townsend. Look at his steering wheel is not straight. It's kind of angled.
A rear tow rod or something.
Like this.
Yeah, we're going to work on it. So when it opens, you come in, we're going to fix the problem, and then we're going to change tires.
But was that from the contact with Rossi?
Yeah, could have been, yeah.
Or is that from contact earlier that was throwing him down the straights?
Yeah, normally what you would see is the steering wheel would be dead straight across, and right now it's angled down. I call that driving the car at 1 o'clock steering position, so it's off, definitely in the rear, which is causing the steering to be off.
I wonder if Power had brushed the wall. We'll see on the left rear if the left rear has any sidewall scuff. I don't see any, so
he might have brushed the wall, and that's why he was slow off the corner when Hunter Ray got by him.
That's what I was thinking, but then
Rossi
again, we did see contact with Rossi on the left rear, so I wonder if that's what maybe put Power's tow rod out of length. We'll have to figure it out.
Things happen here in Toronto, at least so fast. It's all the front runners in the championship, all in the same lap having problems.
And do you know what? Will Power just said that to me prior to this race. He said, because we were talking about qualifying in the weekend, he said, it is staggering how fast things happen in this competition right now. You can't afford to have any dramas. So, Jordan King, Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, Will Power, they're all on pit lane, Jan.
Yes, and of course they have to give up the lead. They were only a few laps away, was King and Rahal, from keeping a strategy that would have worked. But unfortunately now they're going to go back of the order. Kevin.
So it was the right rear for Will Power. That's what they're going to address first. They're trying to change tires at the same time, at least the front tires, but they're going to try to fix the suspension issue on the right rear, so all kinds of track position is being lost by Will Power.
This is going to cost them at least a lap. We know that they're the fastest guys in the pit to repair cars. As we see Rossi drives away with a new front wing. We're putting a new front wing on Hunter Ray's car, but this could cost him Will Power a lap or two.
Just when everything seemed to be in somewhat of a predictable rhythm, a little bit of chaos on the streets of Toronto to some of the big names. On the side of the track where the old pit lane used to be is now the $170 million spectacular Hotel X, the Falcon Sky Bar pool area, the tennis courts at 10X Toronto, the lobby bar and the lobby itself, and then the bi-level penthouse suite also. This place is spectacular. So if you're planning a trip to Toronto anytime soon, it maybe should include a visit or a stay there. Have a look at that.
Best view of the track right there. Poolside.
Hey, I'm thinking about locking in a bi-level suite myself for next year.
It's a little bit of Monaco in Toronto, for sure. As we welcome you back, Honda Indy Toronto, and there's been plenty going on with Will Power, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Alexander Rossi. Meanwhile, we've got a good scrap going up front between the top two in the championship.
How's the car there?
Just taking a long time to get going and got understeer. I think that understeer is more my problem.
Copy that.
So a little insight there is into what Josef Newgarden is dealing with. Keeping in mind he's got Scott Dixon all over him. In IndyCar Live at the top of the show, Paul Towns and myself told you about the speed of Takuma Sato and Marco Andretti all weekend long, and here is Taku in third.
Look at all this stuff, all the marbles already on the track, and that is going to get picked up on the tires. You can see it on the tires. It's going to be really treacherous on this restart.
All right, check out Dixon. Can he get close enough to the leader, Newgarden? What about that blue, black, and white car? Newgarden's in the wall!
He hit the wall hard. He's got the marbles on his tires, and he hit the wall really hard. Wickens now up to second on the inside of Sato.
Here come the Canadians. Hinchcliffe is in there as well.
Look at people locking up. Everybody has stuff all over their tires. It is a handful out there.
Oh boy, Andretti on the inside of Hinchcliffe. It's a drag race up the back. Power. Max Chilton, Sebastian Bourdais, and Graham Rahal all in the same corner collision down in turn one.
And this is a race for position. If any of these guys can get going, there goes Bourdais. So this stuff matters. Whoever can get going first, it's for position, and you just knew something like this might happen because you could see all the pickup collected on the tires.
Couldn't even see Ryan Hunter-Reay in there. He was blocked by Bourdais.
The marbles around this track are going to get worse and worse and worse. We're 33 laps into an 85-lap race.
Every year we come to Toronto, the start of the race, usually not that many fireworks, and it just seems like this place is the most chaotic race of the year sometimes, and once again it's happened on a restart, and I don't see any reason why the next restart won't be any less chaotic unless they sweep the track religiously.
Well, you see Dixon is now the leader as we watch. He just missed his turn, and it wouldn't turn with the marbles on the tires. He goes way wide, hits the wall pretty hard sideways, so definitely probably a toe link broken, can't get going. Absolutely swarmed by everybody as we see now. Rahal, locks up big into the back of Chilton, and that kind of really just caused it all.
Boom. Somebody went flying over the back of Rahal there, too.
Will Power way off the back. He just wants to get through the corner and gets there, and it's completely blocked.
Look at that. He can't even turn.
I think it was Ed Jones. Ed Jones was that other car a little further up. Look for that blue NTT data car. There it is.
There goes Graham. Rossi.
Rossi launches, so he might have a toe link as well, and he's got a front wing. It looks like it's broken again.
Rahal sideways in the 15.
Yeah, look at the front wing of Rossi. He hit dead square, and his teammate launched him with the rear of his car, so he's going to have damage on the rear and the front of the car.
Things have suddenly got wild in Toronto.
They might be out of front wings at Andretti Racing.
Yeah. Zach Veach. Watch this.
Slick move by Veach. He's threaded the needle right through there. So nice running there.
Great patience. Guys, look at this. Just pause this for a second after Newgarden. Look at he's wide here, but look at the path that he draws. He basically is driving through snow right here. You can see his tire marks. It looks like he's going through Oreo cookie crumble right there.
And you know what, T-Bell? That wall is about 18 inches further to the right than what it used to be. That collision could have been a whole lot worse.
Watch this. This will tell everything from Dixon's perspective.
He just missed the turn in. Like he just would not turn at all. Dixon says, see you later.
Yeah.
So when you're in that position of Scott Dixon, how hard is it not to be a victim of target fixation?
It's the ideal situation, though, because Newgarden's the guinea pig. Dixon's able to just very subtly...
Lower right rear arm. Let's give it a look.
Rahal's crew talking about damage there. Dixon's able to measure track grip in real time and make split-second decisions about how hard to push. It's really where you want to be in that situation.
So
as Rossi's damage is
we see the front wing of now Rossi's just, it looks like the wing is okay, but the nose cone itself is broken off. The wing might be okay.
Rossi and Hunter-Reay must feel like they've been in a demolition derby this this day in Toronto.
And quietly, Marco Andretti, who's up 9 positions from his starting position. He's in 5th place right now. He's on the same strategy as the leaders. So he is flying the Andretti banner.
But let's
this
go
weekend.
Daly went from 9th on the grid back to 18th. Now he's back up to 9th.
And for the tens of thousands in the stands, who's sitting second? Robert Wickens. Here he is.
Once again, at the front.
Hey, somebody told me on social media I'm mispronouncing the name of his town. How do you pronounce it correctly?
Guelph.
Guelph with a W sound. Gotcha.
Green, green, green.
Everybody's slipping and sliding all over the place. Good restart
Hold everybody
there.
up. Team's right behind you.
He
there
just
you go.
blew
One
by
on the
4 of them.
outside. Take them all the way down, buddy. Take them all the way down.
Listen
Good
to how
job.
patient Wickens had to be on the throttle. He could feel the pickup on his tires.
Okay.
So Newgarden is in. The Penske guys are inspecting that car thoroughly.
So it's the right rear is that what they're most looking at. He and Tim Cindric have been talking for quite a while. Josef said, I just lost it on the marbles, but it actually is not that bad, even though it was a really hard hit. He said, I can steer straight, but I really fear there's a problem with the right toe link. So Tim has said, we're going to take a good look over it and check you out. That caution really helps save them because now they can stay on the lead lap and really take a good look. They're assessing the front wing, and Newgarden is back out. Lost track position, but he does still have a chance to score some good points in this race, and maybe if the yellows worked out, could still be a factor.
You see Travis Law, the crew chief in the white fire suit, just giving it one last thorough go over to check and gave it the thumbs up.
Hey, Robert, Paul Tracy at the booth. Okay, crazy restart, but what a slick move you made to move your way up into second.
Hey, thanks, PT. I'm not quite sure what happened. Looked like Newgarden overheated a little bit there into turn 11 there. I saw the green going, so I went for it on the inside, but it was super slick down into one, so for next restart should be interesting.
Yeah, it looks like there's a ton of marbles offline, so it looked like he got a lot of junk on his tires. Can you see anything on track?
Yeah, it's pretty messy. Exit at 2 to turn 3. Apart from that, I mean, these restarts, you know, the pace car can only go so quick, but we're just getting loads of pickup here behind them.
All right, good luck. Keep it clean.
Thanks, PT.
Shake of the head from Graham Rahal. A frustrating day in Toronto. And another look at Josef Newgarden. He was a passenger in his own car, clouding the wall, and Dixon saw a clean track ahead. Back in Toronto and ready for the next restart. Scott Dixon, the race leader. Robert Wickens, an Ontario native, in second, followed by Simon Pagenaud and Takuma Sato.
Ready, green, green, green.
Let's go. Dixon with a super restart and takes off down this front straight. Here goes Marco Andretti, looking for a move on Takuma Sato. Outside turn 1. James Hinchcliffe's got his hands full further back as well, with Tony Kanaan, who does the over and under on him.
Oh, Marco Andretti riding wild along with Hinchcliffe, who's battling it out. They are all over the place in those first couple of corners.
And how about Charlie Kimball and Connor Daly a little further back? Sato and Andretti, did they touch briefly? Zach Clayman DeMello trying to hold Jordan King wide in the fuzzy Chevrolet. Really wide.
Clayman DeMello up to 10th. That's the highest he's been. King in 10th now.
Veach on the inside of Clayman DeMello. Rides the high line on that.
Guys are all over the track here.
Power in the middle of that mix ahead of Bourdais. Ryan Hunter-Ray at the back of this line.
Well, so many of these drivers that have had issues. Look at Marco Andretti dirt tracking it World of Outlaws style coming out of turn 8. Gotta love it. So many of these guys that have had issues now trying to make the magic happen on the restart.
Well, they still got pickup on their tires, as we saw Pagenaud was all sideways off the corner. It takes at least 2 laps to get your tires hot again and get all the pickup, as we see Marco lock up just a little bit and run wide, but he's right there. He's going to get a run on Sato. Big run.
What's the moniker for Oberto, Jerky? Isn't it Oh Boy Oberto? What about Oh Boy Marco?
Oh boy,
he's
going.
going.
He's got him, close the door on him.
No,
But
here comes Taku.
Sato's on the inside. Runs him wide and takes it back.
I don't think that's going to settle Marco Andretti down one bit. Further back, look at Ed Jones.
These cars all here, all of them have had damage this race. I think
wheel with
these
Newgarden.
guys are banging each other. All these cars have had major damage, and they're all side by side with each other.
Jones got into Newgarden, then Newgarden gave it right back to Jones at the exit of turn 3. Now Alexander Rossi with a big smile saying this will help me make up valuable positions that he needs to be a factor at the end.
Getting close to the halfway point of this Honda Indy Toronto. And boy, hasn't it been wild stuff on track. Meanwhile, up front, Scott Dixon has scooted away to a +2 second lead over Robert Wickens and Simon Pagenaud.
And Marco Andretti is not done with Sato as Rene Bender stalls.
He stalls. That's turn 8. He's got a big run now, but he took the same route. He's got to get across in front of him and not leave the door open. Full course yellow. Good job by Marco to get that position.
Here is Binder in the Juncos Racing machine, needing a little extra assistance just to get this tidied up. Tony Kanaan is in a really good position in 6th, and Tony's been one of the biggest movers in this race. Wow, that last restart was super exciting. And we're going to get another one.
Yeah, we're going to pick up again.
Oh!
We're going to have guys.
Bender had the car in reverse, I think, when they fired the starter. It knocked the safety worker over. Car was in gear. I don't think Bender realized he needed to be in neutral. So if you put the starter into the gearbox with reverse engaged, push the button, it just turns the axles.
And the Austrian finally gets on his way now. As always, we're very grateful to the AMR safety team for everything they do in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Let's take you back a few moments ago and show you Marco Andretti, Takuma Sato. Sato in the MyJack entry. Wow, Marco coming right around the outside. But this was a spirited defense from Sato. Check this out.
And it just seems like that different than years past, Paul. Trying to go the outside at turn 3, there's just not as much grip out there, especially when the driver like Sato pushes you that wide at the apex.
He had him. All he had to do was move over on him and block the line, but Sato just braked and let go of the brakes and just dove it in there with fury. He said, I'm coming in regardless of whether I hit you or not.
Two sides to every story. I always like to look at the other one when listening to you guys do that analysis. How about some heads-up driving from Marco Andretti as well to give him that room on that? He went wide enough to allow Taku through. Could have easily been a collision.
Another restart coming, and you can't think that battle's over. I think we're going to see those two guys go at it the rest of the race. Safety car still out.
Nobody on this round of yellow here took an opportunity to take tires or go off strategy.
I think it's too early. 43 laps to go. I think the earliest you could risk it, Jan Beekes, might be around 34, 35 laps to go.
I tell you one thing I noticed, these guys are not trying to save fuel now. They're trying to get the marbles off their tires. You hear the guys coming off the corner. They're weaving, they're spinning the tires up, and normally they'd be coasting, just trying to save fuel, but the pickup is so bad that they're spinning the tires up.
Katie?
Well, guys, we were just treated to an incredible battle between Marco Andretti and Takuma Sato, so I want to catch up with Marco strategist Brian Herta. Brian, what's the word over the radio right now with Marco during that battle?
Well, he's doing a great job. That was a good pass there on Sato. We got it done right before the yellow came out, so that made us all smile. And you know, he's we're fighting for a podium now. Just got to keep our head down, and we got one more pit stop to make. We'll see where we end up.
Why is Marco so optimistic about this setup for today?
We're always optimistic because we're racers.
You heard it, Jan.
And of course, one thing that we're probably remiss sometimes to mention too is it wasn't that many years ago that where it was Brian Herta Autosport and there was the amalgamation of Andretti Autosport, and now it's Andretti Herta Autosport with Curb Agajanian. So Really good to hear from Brian and to see Marco doing such a good job. One of Marco's old teammates is on screen right here from the AJ Foyt Racing team, the ABC supply car of Tony Kanaan, who's been the quiet achiever thus far.
Solidly in 6th place, but we'll have to find out what he can do on a restart. Kanaan, a master in difficult conditions on restarts.
Ready for the slingshot in the second half of this race. Out of turn 10, Dixon's already gone. And that's the leader's prerogative right there. New rules in IndyCar. And a great restart from the Chip Ganassi racer, the championship leader. Dixon is gone. Now watch Andretti. Thinks about it on that 3rd place spot on Simon Pagenaud into turn 1.
I like his line, the way he moved out. He's got to run. Look at that run. Side by side and wanting him with these guys. But Marco's got a big run on Pagenaud.
That was Spencer Piggott going all the way around the outside of Zach Clayman DeMello and Newgarden up the inside. Now Pagenaud defends.
I think Marco's learned. I'm going to tuck back in, looking back for Newgarden and Rossi, trying to make stuff happen on restarts. Rossi to the inside of DeMello. And Newgarden and Rossi have a lot of flexibility in terms of when they make their last stop.
Will Power still a lap down. He's 2 laps down, so not trying to get in the fight now.
Now for Robert Wickens, with 41 laps to go, he last pitted on lap 16. We've had some yellow, but Wickens, I think, is going to be one of the first cars to come to pit lane.
Zach Veach, who had that very entertaining spin in qualifying yesterday, unfortunately that lap didn't count. He was pretty frustrated not to advance to the next stage. He's made up 13 positions as we check out his Firestone telemetry. What a run.
A lot of guys on push to pass. Kimball, Veach, both here on push to pass. Daly running in 10th just behind Veach.
There goes Pickett. Spencer Pickett making a move on his teammate Jordan King. That's for 11th place. Look at that, Zach Veach up 13 positions. You mentioned the spin in qualifying, and that cost him his fastest lap and put him to the back of the field, but he's more than made up for it. Zach Veach, 13 spots. Charlie Kimball up 12. Marco Andretti up 10 since the start here in Toronto.
Tires are now back up to temperature and full working order. Dixon now stretching away from Wickens. Wickens has a little bit of a breather on Pagenaud.
I don't know about you folks at home, but it has been thoroughly enjoyable watching these cars dance around the streets of Toronto. There's been lots of sideways action, and we've only just crossed the halfway mark. And Tony is our driver today, the Chevy driver profile. And his AJ Foyt Racing Chevrolet has been performing very nicely. And today, this is what an Ironman Tony is. Today is his 295th consecutive IndyCar start. Robin Miller, that's amazing.
Well, he is the Ironman because he's been in the Ironman league, but AJ Foyt's at home right now watching because he had back surgery last Wednesday. Now, I say he's home watching because he's supposed to be taking it easy for 2 weeks. When I talked to him yesterday, he was driving his truck out to his ranch, and I said, I thought you were grounded for 2 weeks. He said, I don't do anything anybody tells me to do. I do what I want to do. So he's 83 years old. I guess he's entitled to that, Lee.
I would say so. So Kanaan runs in a solid 6th. Graham Rahal in the Russo entry has now left the pits after the Rahal Letterman Lanigan team did such a good job to get that fixed. But we were given a report earlier that Graham has been handed an avoidable contact penalty for that first corner skirmish.
I don't remember Graham necessarily. I just remember chaos. I'm not
chaos,
sure I put
yeah.
that all on Graham, but we'll have to see how that shakes out. Katie?
And guys, Charlie Kimball is having an incredible day. He's one of the biggest movers, up 12 positions since the start of the race. And I asked him what's working for him here on the streets of Toronto. Well, he said we brought a baseline setup from Detroit, which is really helpful since we don't have any data from here on the streets of Toronto since Carlin is a new team. I just checked in with his strategist, Davey Hamilton, and he told me, well, Charlie's just putting in really consistent laps and the car is nice and balanced, and they expect Charlie to match his best result of 8th. Kevin?
Katie, while Scott Dixon leading the race has a chance to take a big championship lead, it's damage control for Josef Newgarden, last year's champion. We see him back there after hitting the wall right before the restart. Amazingly, no damage. They didn't have to change any suspension. And you see the points as they run right now, up to 63 now for Dixon on Newgarden. But he said the car's pretty good, so he might be able to still pick up some spots. Right behind him is another one in damage control, third in the championship. That's Alexander Rossi. He's on his third front wing. So is Ryan Hunter-Reay. The Andretti Autosport team is trying to repair wings in case they need another one later in this race. And there's the Rossi wing. They have other wings. They could borrow some of their teammates like Veach or Andretti's as Takuma Sato comes in, but they like to have the wings with the right specs. Jan?
They finish up the stop for Takuma Sato. Behind him, Ed Jones hits his pit stop. This is the cycle for those, as Townsend was talking about, these are the people who are trying to be the first to make the last stop. You'll have to save fuel on the way home here, but this is a gamble. Then now we see Hinchcliffe. His tires are laid out as well.
You know, guys, Newgarden has got to be so careful the rest of this race. He's racing guys right now that don't care about the championship. You've got in front of him, you've got King, Daly, Piggott, Veach, and Kimball. All of those guys are racing for their best finish of the year, and they don't care what Newgarden's problem is.
And Newgarden needs to do what this man, Scott Dixon, did a week ago in Iowa. And that was, the race didn't go to plan for Scott or the Ganassi team, but he just kept digging, Townsend. He just kept digging.
Yeah, and he survived the red tire stint, and as we predicted earlier, Dixon much stronger on the blacks, Jan.
This is an opportunity, and these are scuffed blacks. These are not new for Hinchcliffe on his last stint, but it looks like they have very few miles. Wow, that was nice and quick, 7.7 seconds, so he now equals his teammate on pit road.
If these guys can all go to the end, Dixon is now in the danger zone. If it goes yellow, just like last year, he stayed out there longer, got the yellow, and it really screwed him. So does he pit or does he not pit? He's got a nice lead right now.
I think you have to come to pit lane. Look at how strong he is. He's got a gap right now. The question is, where would he come back out in lap traffic? But if a yellow comes out, it's happened to Dixon before here in Toronto.
Here comes
the exact same situation.
He stayed out, and Wickens is in, not taking the gamble, Jan.
And I think he was somewhat forced to remember he has been on an earlier pit strategy today. You don't want to take too much of a risk. And you've talked about, Paul, this is the danger zone. It looks like he went a little bit too far forward. He missed his mark slightly. Let's see if the team can recover. Oh, they do. Nice recovery. 7.3, Kevin.
Josef Newgarden will be coming in, and Alexander Rossi also has tires set up. There's Rossi coming in the Napa car, and towards pit out, Newgarden coming in. Still both of these on the lead lap, still with pretty good cars. Newgarden, Rossi at the same time, taking Sunoco fuel, and Rossi is going to get the spot back in front of Newgarden.
I'm telling you, man, Dixon is really the strategy. If something happens and someone goes in the tires, he did this last year, and it really bit him, but we hear he's coming to pit lane. There he is.
Okay. Big sigh of relief for the 9 team that no yellow came out. That danger period is now over. All they need is a good, clean final stop.
So where will he be in relation to Robert Wickens? There was about a 2.5 second advantage over Wickens at the time when Robert, on the right-hand side of your screen, pitted.
He didn't miss his marks. He was perfect, but I got a problem on the outside front. That guy on the inside front was really bad on that one. He lost some time there.
Here comes Wickens. This is going to be close. Wickens out of turn 11. Dixon exiting pit lane, and it's not as close as we imagined. So comfortable there for Dixon.
Got a little buffer with Ray Hall behind him, or Power behind him, many laps down. We'll see if Power gets racy with him, but he's got a buffer now in between him and Wickens.
30 laps until the checkered flag.
It's a long way to go, Townsend, on these tires. They really degrade bad here.
And Scott Dixon really should not worry about willpower at all. Just worry about the gap to that guy. Number 6, Robert Wickens. That's the battle for the lead of the race. Pagano, now the leader, but still has to come to the pits, and he does now.
And Marco Andretti has made up 12 positions, moved himself all the way up to second as you see the team putting on a pair of scuffed blacks and a wing adjustment for him, Kevin.
Pagano was just saying a few minutes ago, I can't drive it on the concrete at all. Make a little front wing adjustment, and they joked to him, well, that's why we hired you. Use your sports car skills. Let's see if he can pick up any gap to get closer to the front too as Pagano blends back in.
Pagano beat Wickens out of the pits right there. Wickens is going to be on hot tires. He's going to make a run. Don't get yourself boxed up right here as he hits the back of Pagano.
Man. Big mistake.
Get on the push to pass. He should have timed that a little bit better.
Will that have rattled Pagano up this back straight to turn 3, or will it fire him up? Simon's got the inside run into 3.
I think Robert Wickens is sick and tired of getting pushed around in this sport.
He's getting hit. He's getting leaned on and hit. But look at Bourdais. He put him in the wall. He said, hey, buddy.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. Pagano says, I'm dead serious.
See if Robert Wickens can get to Pagano. If he can, I think it's going to be elbows out. He is fed up.
He came on the radio and he said, are you serious? And Pagano's serious as a heart attack.
Tony Kanaan finishing up his stop while we watch on track, and it was a routine stop for Tony Kanaan back out to do battle.
Guys, that incident between Simon Pagano and Robert Wickens is under review from race control.
Well, they were side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel contact. The incident before with Wickens and him was nose to tail.
Wickens has gathered himself back up. He's got a good exit here coming out of turn 1. Let's see if Wickens gets on the button.
The Frenchman versus the Canadian.
He's
Team
on it.
Penske, Schmidt, Peterson Motorsports.
He's on it, but too far back now.
And Pagano's on the button to defend, so Pagano, I'm sure, you can see the smoke coming out of the ears of the car behind.
Let's take another look at that from a lap ago.
You know, the way I saw it here, he had the run coming down here. He locks it up, gets into the back of Pagano, hits him, which could be avoidable contact.
Big mistake.
Gets on the push to pass, gets a run down the straightaway, and when they get side by side, they start wheel banging in the brake zone, and Pagano says, what? At the apex, he just hip checked Wickens right out of the way. Here they touch. Right here, touch, touch, touch.
Yeah, but look at how far off the wall Pagano was. I don't see anything wrong with the way Pagano was driving there. Absolutely nothing.
Race control has said the same thing. No action.
That is proactive defensive driving from Pagano. It's a battle for position. And once again, a tough lesson for Robert Wickens on IndyCar racing.
On the day that France wins the Soccer World Cup, Simon Pagano is kind of feeling strong. Fashion racing New England style, the Monster Energy Cup Series. Races on the challenging Magic Mile in New Hampshire. That's next Sunday. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Coverage begins at 1:30 Eastern on NBCSN. Welcome back, folks. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy. Working this 12th round of the Verizon IndyCar Series, it has been an eventful day, to say the least, on the streets of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This is what went down right from the drop of the green. Keep your eyes on the yellow car of Ryan Hunter-Reay. Even watch the silver car of Will Power on the inside. What a move that was to get things going.
Powerful power with a masterful move up the inside.
Did you just say pardon the pun?
Something like that.
Scoot ahead to lap 28, Paul.
Yeah, gets it wrong. Rossi just times the pass wrong. We think that Will Power at that point had a bent toe length. He knocks the front wing off, and he drove around with that under the front car for literally 5 laps under yellow.
At the same moment, Rossi's teammate, Ryan Hunter-Reay, just braked a little too late there down in turn 3. He knocks his front wing off, then restart here. Newgarden, the leader, gets into the fence on all the marbles.
And then it's complete chaos down into turn 1. Everybody scrambles to get around Newgarden. Rahal locks it up and causes a big pile up here.
What you didn't see there was Alexander Rossi flying over the top. You'll see it here maybe. This is Will Power. No, Rossi's already gone. Will couldn't do anything about turning in. And on the next restart, Robert Wickens, an Ontario native, just zipped up the inside to steal second place away from Simon Pagano and tuck in behind Scott Dixon. That brought the crowd to its feet, and Wickens has been involved in some more skirmishes.
And then lap 57, Wickens trying to hang on the pit stop cycle, gets into the back of Pagano, who had just come out of pit lane and was defending on cold tires. And then down in turn 3, there was more action.
Yeah, Wickens gets aggressive, goes for an outside move, starts to bang wheels with Pagenaud. Right here, they start banging and touching on each other. And then Pagenaud says, hey, wait a minute, watch this. I'll give you a body check and move you out of the way.
So there you go. That gets you up to speed on what has transpired here in Toronto for that orange and blue PNC Bank car. This one, Scott Dixon, life is comfortable. 5.7 seconds out in front.
Somewhere pulling into the runoff, probably going to park it down there.
That's bad news for Ryan Hunter-Reay that was hanging on, hoping for a yellow.
Ryan Hunter-Reay still out in front of Dixon. Dixon at one point had an 8-second lead after the pit stops. Now it's down to 3.2. So,
but you can't blame Ryan Hunter-Reay. If a yellow does come out, like an incident with Sato, he'll get to the tail end of the lead lap. He'll be able to make his final pit stop, be on fresh tires for the restart. So there's a big incentive for Hunter-Reay to hang on.
Telling you what, though, the Frenchman right here with France winning the World Cup. He was my pick this morning on the pre-race show. He's got the bit between his teeth right now, and he's chasing the leader down.
And Simon Pagenaud could do with some spirit lifting. It has been a rough season for him. What, off the top of my head, without looking at notes, 1 podium, maybe 2. You know, he was out of the top 10 for the majority of the championship. Here's Scott Dixon. Is there a wall brush here? Watch carefully.
Oh, yes, there was. There was.
And this will tell us more about Takuma Sato.
He hit it hard.
Ugh.
Couple times. Bent toe link right away. See the skid marks coming off the rear. The tires skewed out. But we know now Dixon has brushed the wall. He's pushing hard to try to get by Hunter-Reay. The gap is closing down to 2.5 seconds now behind, with Pagenaud chasing him down with a spirited drive.
It's been 31 laps since Hunter-Reay's last stop. He's got to be close on fuel. There's been some yellow in that stint, but Ryan Hunter-Reay might be able to hang on again, hoping for a yellow.
That's the first time in a long time that I have ever seen Scott Dixon make a mistake like that. You never, ever see him brush walls and make mistakes.
Well, it comes out of the frustration of trying to put Ryan Hunter-Reay behind him and open the gap back up, because every lap Pagenaud draws closer and closer, now 2.6 seconds behind, and Scott Dixon is in the sights of Simon Pagenaud.
The only advantage right now is Dixon is probably trying to save some fuel and save his tires. Obviously, Pagenaud is pushing to the limit to try to close that gap. When he gets there, once Dixon gets clear, Dixon might be able to rip off some laps and open that gap back up.
Keep in mind, too, Pagenaud is flying the flag for Team Penske that has had a rough day, with Newgarden leading some 25 laps before that unforced error and driving into the wall on the restart, and Will Power being involved in multiple incidents.
Well, we've seen this all race long with Hunter-Reay and Dixon. Hunter-Reay, his car is probably about 150 pounds lighter on fuel right now, and you see it coming off these slow corners. Even though the tires are wasted on Hunter-Reay's car, he's just able to accelerate there. 150 pounds is a lot.
Have a listen to this. Scott Dixon radio from a few moments ago.
Hunter-Reay's going to stay out for as long as he can.
All right, he's going to move on.
Scott with some pretty simple instructions there. The two veteran drivers.
I think he said he needs to get a funny move on.
Yeah, a lot of rubber now getting laid down. Look at all these tracks. So track is really rubbering up now. Dixon's ready to put the hammer down, but he's being held up by Hunter-Reay.
Want to give a shout out to Carlin Racing's Charlie Kimball. Best result of the season for the team has been Charlie with an 8th place in Detroit, number 2. Charlie's running 6th at the moment. Wouldn't that be a huge boost for Trevor Carlin and the gang?
Massive. It's been a very difficult rookie season for Carlin. They've stuck with it, and the pace of Charlie Kimball has been pretty respectable today. He's made positions, he's made moves, he's kept out of the chaos and the trouble.
He's right on
the come home with a top 5, that'd be huge.
He's right on the back of the hometown favorite, James Hinchcliffe, and he has a nice big gap of 4 seconds back to Kanaan, which will be one of his best races of the year on a road course as well.
Let's check in with Team Penske and Kev.
Well, Ryan Hunter-Reay right in front of Scott Dixon is helping Simon Pagenaud cut that gap a little bit. Kyle Moyer is on the stand. How hard is he pushing now, or might he be saving tires for a run towards the end?
No, we're pushing right now because Dixie's getting held up there, so we're giving everything you've got. I mean, the DXC's, running really good. The Chevy's making the fuel mileage easy. So, Hunter Ray's going to pit here soon, so this is our only shot, really.
This is the best this year the street program has been for the 22 team. What did you guys find this weekend?
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but yes. But, he likes his place here, and it's a good place to get ourselves back on track.
All right, thank you. That's Kyle Moyer.
So pushing those tires to the limit. When he gets there, he might be out of tires to really challenge Dixon, because Dixon is just kind of biding his time.
But at the same time, Pagano is slowly being reeled back in by Robert Wickens, who has not forgotten the antics on the outlap from Pagano. Well within the rules, but very aggressive.
Pagano has never stood on the podium here in Toronto. Difficult to think about that for the one-time series champion, and Hunter Ray pits. What a weekend it's been here in Toronto for the Honda Indy Toronto. Round 12 of the Verizon Series. IndyCar in Canada. And it looks like the series leader, Scott Dixon, a 4-time champion, may go on one step closer to becoming 5 as we bring you the Chevrolet driver update. And Simon Pagano, who sits second, is the best of the bunch at the moment, but some really encouraging results if they stay as is, with Kimball giving Carlin its best result, Tony Kanaan giving AJ Foyt a solid 7th position. We'll see. There are still 11 laps to go. Jan?
The situation for Takuma Sato, just having checked with the team, of course, we'd love to find out the thoughts of Takuma Sato, but because he is stranded back there behind the Princess Gate, the team has not been able to be in contact with him, and essentially he's stranded till they bring the car back post-race.
Dixon right now is just putting the hammer down. He's pulled out about a 1.5 seconds in the last couple laps, running a 1:07. So Simon matching his time as we see Piggott having a problem for some reason. We don't know. Doesn't look like he hit anything, but he's off the pace for sure.
Suspension looks square, so it looks to be maybe a driveline issue for the 21.
And this is a punch to the gut for the youngster who finished on the podium last weekend in Iowa because he was running inside the top 10.
Comes Connor Daly to come by.
It's got to be
he got wide. He got wide.
Here.
Yeah, he got wide. Brushed the wall. Same thing as Newgarden, but these marbles have kind of worked their way off the track with the guys on reds, but he's on reds right now, I think.
So that's 3 on that corner. Race at the time, race leader Josef Newgarden.
Feel like something broken?
At the time, a top 5 running Takuma Sato, and now this latest one, top 10 running Spencer Piggott. That's going to put an end to his day.
Suspension looks square, Paul, but he probably punched the drive shaft in the gearbox.
Yeah, I mean, red tires go away. You saw everybody at the beginning of the race sliding around all over the place. There was a lot of marbles built up on the guys on reds. His strategy was to start on blacks, but there's definitely something bent in that car. So we go back to Will Power and Veach and Rossi.
And Will Power not on the lead lap. Zach Veach is. So you're looking at 8th, 9th, and wait for Josef Newgarden to come around because RHR is at the tail end of that lead lap. So the next one is Newgarden running in the top 10.
And a really tidy drive by Veach, holding off the likes of Rossi and Newgarden. The guy came from last on the grid.
Just 8 laps to go. Wow, that went quick. There was a lot packed into this race today, though.
Dixon back in his element, controlling the pace. It looked for sure he got a little bit frustrated, Townsend, and made that small mistake. He brushed the wall, but he's probably the only guy that got away with hitting it and didn't bend anything so far today.
Seems like if Dixon does make a mistake, which is rare, it's usually a small one, and he reels it back in, kind of resets, and gets going again. And in this case, talk about controlling the race. Dixon with 87 seconds of push to pass. He's just very lightly used the push to pass when needed to just kind of maintain, as you said, Paul, 2.5 second gap. That's all he's concerned about right now.
Well, and that lead now has gone out to 64 points over Newgarden in the championship, which is one of the biggest point leads we've seen in a long time.
Almost doubled it. He came in today with a 33-point advantage. So almost doubling it in one race is massive. Here's Robert Wickens, and I think a really nice family-style story here is his one and only brother
is here today. His brother Trevor, who runs a go-kart track and has worked in the go-kart industry for such a long time. He was Robert's mechanic back in the early days. He's here. Mum and Dad are here. Lots of family and friends, including his fiancée Carly. So to stand on the podium in your first Canadian IndyCar race will be quite the honour. Katie?
Well, it looked like it was going to be back-to-back good weekends for Spencer Piggott and the 21 team, but Spencer, a frustrating end to the day. What happened?
Yeah, it is frustrating. I just entered the last corner half foot or so too wide, and my right front got on a lot of marbles, and it just kind of took off, and I was along for the ride, but yeah, it's a shame. I thought we were moving up pretty well, and preferred freezer car was handling pretty well, so it's frustrating, but you know, it is what it is.
Thanks, Spencer. Lee?
It's always interesting on days like this to have a look at the drivers, and you guys know what it's like. It is hot and humid today. They have been working big time.
Guy who's working big time as we look at the front of Hinch's car here. He's got Kimball right on his tail. So that would be a great finish for him, but Hinch inside the top 5, his teammate currently 3rd. Laps are winding down quickly.
The Arrow Honda. There's about 150 Arrow guests here cheering James Hinchcliffe on. I think they both knew early in the weekend, both Hinchcliffe and Wickens, that they didn't quite have the car to win this one today, but 2 in the top 5 will do the team proud.
Been a race of survival, a lot of action on track, a lot of bumping and grinding and wall hitting. As we see the Arrow, huge hospitality, huge presence of customers here at every race. Hinch doing a great job today.
Get the feeling that Kimball might have something to say.
Maybe, yeah.
To James Hinchcliffe on track here before this thing's over. He's just very quietly and consistently reeled in Hinch as we see Marco Andretti with just a really solid run. Very aggressive with Sato earlier, but as usual, Marco Andretti, such a good racer. You really don't see much contact wheel to wheel, and he battles guys close and hard. It's not a win, it's not a podium, Paul, but I think it's good, consistent progress this season for
Absolutely.
Marco Andretti.
Marco's not a guy you ever really see crash much. You don't see him get into a lot of accidents. He's had a lot of action today. He's had a lot of wheel-to-wheel action, but he always seems to just finish.
Tell you what, he put on some good moves today.
Yeah.
He was really racy, and if he stays where he is in just for another 5 laps, he's going to equal his season best result of 4th, which he achieved back in the end of May, beginning of June in Detroit.
Biggest mover of the race right here. Was fast all weekend long, right from the word go. He was in the top 2 or 3 in practice. Qualifying has really been his Achilles heel all year, other than Detroit, where he put it on the front row, but he came here with the Detroit setup. They just missed it in qualifying because of the little bit of rain, but a solid run today as we see Pagenaud now hung up behind a lapped car, which is going to help Dixon massively here.
Almost a disaster for Pagenaud. Rene Bender goes a little wide. I think must have realized he put himself out on the marbles and was trying to keep it as tight as possible. That was a little too close for comfort for Simon Pagenaud, and that allowed Wickens to make up a nice gap on Pagenaud.
Yeah, the gap now is 4 seconds, so Dixon just pulling away slightly every lap. Nice big gap.
And Pagenaud and Wickens just trickling their push to pass, trying to save as much as they can. 3 laps to go. You certainly don't want to finish with anything less than the can if a car is within reach.
Wickens on the push to pass, Pagenaud on the push to pass. So Wickens is now charging, trying to move up 1 more position. It's definitely on the move here.
And look at that. You get 200 seconds of push to pass allocated in these races, and Wickens has more than 20 seconds up his sleeve in comparison to Pagenaud.
Paul, you've won before here, your home track. These closing laps, it's hot, it's difficult, but the crowd must give you great energy to really push at the end.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure, like they said, is always on yourself to do a great result here in front of your hometown fans. And sometimes that can lead to just the smallest of mistakes here really can put you out of the race, as we see the other Canadian, Charlie, all over the back of him. Kind of an opposite reaction here. We got Wickens chasing down Pagenaud, but Hinchcliffe being attacked by Kimball.
And just selfishly for a second, PT, what's it been like for you this week? You got to see your mum and dad. You got your girlfriend Lisa here. Just for Townsend and I being with you this weekend, seeing the adulation that you still get. I mean, it makes us feel good for you, but it must make you feel terrific.
Oh, it's great. I get come up here, see my parents, go to my old friends' restaurants, and we, all three of us have been out a couple nights and had great dinners, drank some wine, and it's great to see the fans out on the streets here. Great summer, so
it's a
amazing
lot of fun,
race.
A lot of fun for me and Lee to be reminded we're in the presence of greatness.
The only Canadian to win this race. And that record is going to stay intact by the looks of it, because there are only 2 laps to go. Scott Dixon, 4.3 seconds out in front.
Marco's getting now, backing up. He's hanging on. He's going for the pits for some reason. Couldn't make the fuel mileage.
That doesn't make sense. His last stop was on lap 56.
Oh, no.
Splash of fuel.
That is a huge miscalculation, because Dixon pitted on 55, Pagano on 56, Marco pitted on 56. He should have had fuel.
Going to fall outside the top 10 now, which would be a huge disappointment after such a great drive all day, but probably couldn't get all the fuel in it on a pit stop because everybody else made it no problem.
Imagine coming out of the pits and getting the white flag immediately. I wonder if they couldn't fill it on the last
stop. Couldn't get it all in, exactly. Meanwhile, everything's happened so fast today. We're on the last lap. We're coming to the checkered flag. This is Scott Dixon on a hot day in Toronto. The Iceman has prevailed and extends his championship lead substantially. Scott Dixon coming down the front straight, wins on the streets of Toronto for the 3rd time.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was a much-needed win for the team. Scott was frustrated beyond belief by not getting the pole position yesterday. Well, now that doesn't matter. Almost doubles his championship lead. Canadian Robert Wickens steps from his Lucas Oil Honda for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, and look at the adulation, look at the appreciation shown from the Canadian race fans too. An Ontario boy. Fabulous stuff. And in victory circle, Scott Dixon awaits. It's his 44th career win, 3rd win of the season, Kev, and has a massive championship lead.
I think also notable is that he's tied A.J. Foyt for 2nd on the top 5 list. Only Mario Andretti has more. We're going to let Scott, of course, go over and greet Emma first and then celebrate with his team a little bit. This might be one, if it works out that way for championship number 5, we look back and say this was a deciding factor for Scott Dixon, who has been dominant all weekend. Fastest on Friday, just missed the pole on Saturday, fastest in the warm-up, and now ultimately cruises to a win. This was not a cruise, though. There was melee carnage all around you. How did you escape everything?
I'm a little worn out, man. That was definitely a physical race. With those stop-goes, it was definitely easy to pick up lots of debris on the tires, and I think that's just what happened to Josef. He tried to go a little bit fast, I think, into the last corner there on 11 and kind of got in the grey, and that was pretty much it. But can't thank the crew enough. The car was superb. We just needed some clear air, and we were able to check out.
So what are you thinking when you see Newgarden go like that? The seas parted for you. Did you expect that at all?
The first thing that pops into my mind is trying not to do the same thing. Obviously it was still green at that point. I think all the way to turn 3. I was definitely pretty cautious into 1, pretty cautious into 3 at that point as well. So it's it was definitely a tough race. Definitely tough on those restarts. We had a lot of kind of issues with lap traffic there. I understand that they were trying to stay on the lead lap, but Hunter Ray was definitely backing us up. I think once we got clear of him, we were able to run almost 2 seconds a lap faster. But I can't thank everybody at PNC Bank and Honda. It's the Honda Indy Grand Prix here in Toronto. They've done a superb job all year, and now we just got to try and keep these points rolling.
So the last 3 years, the leader has been disadvantaged with a caution. That was you at least one time in that circumstance. When the window has started to open and some are coming in and you're out, how nervous are you getting, hoping and praying a yellow doesn't come?
Yeah, you definitely get pretty nervous. I think you keep looking at the lap count, trying to figure how many laps are to go. If there's the possibility where, some of those other cars have pitted and can get home, from that point. But, I think that point we were definitely pretty sweet on that, and the yellows kind of fell in our favor, I think, as far as leaders could go. The only thing better is you would just want to check out, but huge congrats to the team again. I'm stoked, man. This is awesome.
One more. Late in the race, when it looked like things were pretty well in control, I think I saw you kiss the wall a little bit. What was that?
Yeah, I did. The team came on the radio. They're like, hey, just look after your tires. We've got plenty of space here. And maybe a lack of concentration there. Tried to, speed up a little bit more, get close to Hunter Ray, give him a bit of pressure, and kiss the wall. So luckily it was square. Got both, left sides of the Firestone tires, and nothing was wrong.
Fantastic drive. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. I'm stoked. Thank you so much.
He might be on his way to championship number 5. Only A.J. Foyt has one more. Scott Dixon wins in Toronto. Robin.
All right, Simon Pagenaud finishes second. Kid, a good battle with you and your buddy Robert Wickens there, and he gave you a little bump at the end of the thing here, but it looked like just hard racing.
Yeah, hard racing, good racing. I had fun. It was really, really tough out there. The track was changing all the time. I don't know if it's the dust or the tires, but certainly restarts where I had wheel spin up to 5th gear in the front straightaway. So it was a blast to drive, really difficult, but I tell you what, that was when you have a good result like this, it feels very rewarding and a lot of fun. I'm really proud of the DXC Chevrolet team for great effort this weekend. I think we showed that we're back, so I'm excited.
Wickens gave you a little shove going into one?
Yeah.
I mean, you felt it pretty good.
Yeah, I really thought I was going in the tire wall. So fortunately, I kept on the island, managed to get a good run down the straightaway, and I made his life difficult in turn 3 and 4. But after that, I wasn't going to be nice. It's racing.
You're too nice a guy.
Ask him.
Roger Penske, ask him. No, because somebody said, he said, are you serious? And you said, damn right I am.
Serious about?
Well, he called in his radio and said, is he serious when you guys were going through 3 and 4 and 5 together? Like,
damn right
when you pitched. That's what I thought. Damn right you are. So, Roger Penske, we need a bad guy, but you're not the bad guy yet. But this is, this has been a tough season, so this is a hell of a good result for you and a good way to go to the last 5 races.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, it's racing. We have good seasons. We have not as good seasons, but the big thing is to bounce back, and I think we're doing just that. We're working diligently in the background, and it's showing this weekend. All 3 Penske cars were in the Fast 6 on a street course. It's a big evolution. So, we couldn't be happier this weekend. I'm sorry for Josef and Will's race, but we'll get him next race.
All right, Jan. France wins the World Cup. Pagenaud finishes second.
And for Robert Wickens, he, of course, saw those replays as well. But before we get to the replays, let's talk about the feeling for you on a weekend where you say you were underachieving to stand on the car with a Canadian flag and get the cheers of the fans your first time here in Toronto.
Oh, it was amazing. I like to think I'm not an overly teary guy, but that was really cool. I mean, I can't thank the Toronto fans enough. I mean, this whole week has been such a whirlwind of emotions, and to stand on the podium soon in my home race, my first professional home race, I mean, it couldn't have asked for anything better. I mean, we had a great car, but we kind of struggled a bit in qualifying, but in the race we really pulled together, and I think I had a great fight there with Page. I thought maybe second was on the cards for us, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Well, you mentioned it, so let's talk about it. We just asked him in depth about, is that good hard racing, or did you feel like you were muscled, especially in turn 3?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm still kind of learning, the gives and takes here of the Verizon IndyCar series, but I thought he did a clever move. He kept me on the outside. I thought it was good, hard, and fair. I mean, the last bit I wasn't overly impressed with, but the apex contact I thought was good, hard racing. I was just hoping it was going to leave me a little bit more there because I actually had to lock both fronts to not hit the wall.
Well, one thing that we were impressed with was when you passed him. I believe it was restart number 2. You shot up the inside into turn number 1, threaded the needle. That was incredible.
Honestly, it was fortunate timing. I mean, I like to think it was better luck than talent on that one, but no, honestly, I think Newgarden had gotten the marbles or something and got wide, and I looked up and saw the green go, and I had this mega run going, so I had a line on the inside and just went for it.
Now, sometimes you're a bit hard on yourself. We heard that in the interview and the pre-race show, that you're your worst critic. On a day when you don't have a great car, is this something that boosts your confidence now for the rest of the season?
To be honest, we did have a great car in the race. I mean, I don't think anyone had anything for Scott today. Dixie was in a class of his own, but to kind of go punch for punch with him in the second stint there, I thought we really showed some great strides, some great improvements on the car from warm-up to now, and the final stint there, I don't know if it was damage with Pagenaud, but I just had way too much understeer and I couldn't maintain that pace. If not, I think it would have been a fun fight between Simon and I at the end.
All right, awesome. That was fun to watch. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And he, of course, this is his third podium of the season, and for the third year in a row, the Canadian makes the podium.
The debrief continues at Chip Ganassi Racing. They'll be smiling for quite a while after this one. That was a great win.
And welcome back to the streets of Toronto, where Scott Dixon is celebrating his third win. Meanwhile, Marco Andretti was on pace for a top 5 finish here in Toronto, but Marco, a miscommunication there at the end. I heard Brian say, "Save us fuel," and then you came into the pits. What happened?
I just saw the collector go on with 2 to go, and my heart sunk. I just hated for the Oborto boys. We had the top 4 pace really all weekend, and the only time we didn't show it is qualifying in the race. So really disappointed. I think we should have maybe had a shot at podium, but definitely 4th.
Meanwhile, when you were on track and on pace for that top 5, you had a fantastic battle with Takuma Sato. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think we were pretty good on cold tires. Everybody had a ton of pickups, so it made it a lot of fun. People were sliding around, so we were able to capitalize.
And you also had good pace all weekend. What does this say for the rest of your season?
Well, I think we've had street course pace all year. We're just not doing what we need to do as far as results, and I'm pretty disappointed with that, to be honest.
Guys, you can definitely see and hear the frustration on Marco Andretti's face. Jan?
James Hinchcliffe, Canadian, also almost made the podium, but your very first act getting out of the car was to go to congratulate your teammate. So it had to be one of you, right? If someone needs to get on the podium, you've done it in the past. How gratifying with a team that has been struggling.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, for the kind of weekend that we've had, it's been pretty average up to this point, and we thought we missed the boat a little bit in qualifying and had more pace in both cars, and, obviously that was the case in the race. So congrats to Robbie and everybody at SPM. We had a kind of bad start to the race, got shuffled back, spent a lot of time stuck behind Marco in that first stint, and then on that sort of restart melee there, Takuma put me in the wall in turn 2 and bent to toe link. So we were kind of nursing home a little bit of a damaged race car and, capitalizing some other guys' fortunes. Got the car working a bit better in the last stop and ultimately brought home a top 5. So really proud of the boys. And like I said, happy for Robbie and just awesome to have 2 cars in the top 5 here in Toronto.
You mentioned about that first restart, and that really reshuffled the entire race. Was that a case? It certainly looked as like everybody got pickup and some could find grip and some could not.
No, I think nobody found grip and some guys were just caught out worse than others. I mean, that restart was so bad. The pickup on the tires was incredible. When I went around, I don't know which Penske it was, clipped the wall there. I was on the inside. I thought I had a loose wheel. My whole car in a straight line was wiggling like this. You're just driving on marbles, essentially. And so it's no surprise there was guys in the wall, and everyone was a lot smarter the second restart, after that one. But those first couple laps around here after the restarts were just, they were really treacherous.
How difficult physically when you're nursing a car, as you said, that was fairly early on for the first restart. You have a bent toe link. You're trying to maintain your position. You have pressure from behind. It's a hot, humid day. How physically demanding was this day?
Incredibly. This is a bumpy street track. It's very, very hot out here today and very humid. So in the car, you're losing a lot of water. And, for me, once it happened, I lost a bunch of track position at first, just kind of relearning how the car was handling. It really changed the handling from, understeer in one set of corners, oversteer in others, and I kind of had to learn how to drive around it. And then once that came together, we could pick up some spots, and then we got by TK and a couple guys on track. And then Charlie was kind of running us down at the end there. I was just trying to not push too hard to make a mistake because our car was just so on edge at the end there. But ultimately, we could hold them off and took care of the Firestones, had great Honda power, and that's all we needed today.
All right, nice job. Aero obviously here in force for James Hinchcliffe, brings it home 4th. Robin?
Well, Josef Newgarden had this race. He led the first 20-some laps, and we were just talking about the guys in the booth kept saying marbles, marbles, and you said no, it wasn't the marbles.
Well, it's I don't know what it was, to be honest with you, Robin. It's either the marbles or it's dust from the sweepers. They're trying to clean off the track in that yellow. We already had a bunch of marbles. It was 27 laps in. You already had tons of marbles, but yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I went straight into the wall, and partly that's going to be my fault and just making a mistake, but I didn't expect it, I'll tell you that. I just had no idea the car was going to do that. I knew it would probably be low grip, but not zero grip. I lost the front end completely, so I feel terrible. It's not fun to make a mistake. This Hitachi car was quick today. I think it was capable of being in the top 3, potentially winning the race if I didn't make a mistake. But you have days like this in racing. We got to move on now and try and pick it back up.
Is this similar to like being at Indy and getting in the gray?
I mean, it felt like that. It felt like I was getting in the gray at Indy, but I was in the middle of the track. And then I did finally get into the gray on the outside of the track, and then I couldn't really do anything. I was going to hit the wall. Just tried to minimize the damage, but I was going so slow, I didn't actually break anything. That's how slow I was going. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you just got to chalk it up to a learning experience that this same car at this track with, that sort of yellow situation, there's going to be no grip there in that corner. And I guess I didn't forecast that well enough, but that's a mistake on my part, and I'll have to learn from it now.
All right. Dixon's got a 62-point lead. Can you get him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got a long way to go. This doesn't help, but look, we got plenty of racing. We need to keep our head up here, and we're going to be just fine. We got fast cars. We got the best in the business. We get our mistakes sorted out, we're going to be just fine.
All right, thanks, kid. Kevin?
Alexander Rossi is just right behind Josef Newgarden in the championship. I think 8 more points back and finished one spot in front of him in the race, 8th compared to 9th. And you tried an interesting strategy. Leader's a 2-stopper. You did a 6-stopper. Tell me about your day.
Just trying to be different, man. But no, it was really disappointing. I mean, I don't think we had the car to beat Scott, but for sure, with all the problems that everyone had, we could have been second. So it's been a difficult string of races. What are we looking at? Oh, yeah.
That's number 2.
Number 2. So we had already had the contact with Will, so he had a bit of a problem going in turn 3, and I misjudged the closing rate. So I had a front wing change that put me to the back, and then Ray Hall got spun around, and I kind of stopped to avoid it, but then Ryan hit me, and we got airborne. So then we changed the wing again to wing number 3 and stopped another couple of times. So, I mean, the fact that we finished 8th,
yeah,
is a huge testament to the Napa Know-How team, and I'm so thankful for them, and they kept me in it. So it was a difficult day. We've had a lot of mistakes lately, and there's not a lot of time left, so a lot of work to do.
Now, number 1, as far as incidents, was with Will Power. Was he already wounded? Were you catching up with him at that point? Because it was right around the time that Ryan went into the barrier.
I don't know, but I mean, it was a huge closing rate, and I didn't expect it to be as much as it was. So I would imagine that he already had an issue. But yeah, I mean, obviously that was unfortunate because that could have been an easy position, and then chaos ensued, and we probably could have finished second. But a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas these days.
Well, he had a good car this weekend, and we'll look forward to getting a couple of weeks at Mid-Ohio. Still 3rd in the championship.
Yeah, good point, Kev. Still 3rd, and to come back to 8th was a pretty gritty performance from Alexander Rossi and the Andretti Auto Sport team. Not done with yet here in Toronto. Time to hear from some more drivers. Back shortly. The wrap-up of a really enjoyable weekend here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And Scott Dixon victorious in this race and extending his championship lead. We're getting to hear from a lot of the drivers post-race. Here's more. Here's Katie.
And Lee, not only is it Charlie Kimball's best result of 2018, it's Carlin Racing's best result as a team. Charlie, 20th to 5th today for you. What worked so well?
Well, I think it comes down to the hard work of the Carlin Racing guys. They've been working so hard week in, week out of all year, all season. We came here with the solid foundation, got us an 8th in Detroit Race 2. Worked on it all weekend. Struggled a little bit yesterday, the changing conditions, electrical problem yesterday morning. So warm-up, we knew we had a pretty good car, and great stops in pit lane meant that we were close to the top 5 at the end and able to pick up a top 5.
And as those laps wound down, I thought you were starting to reel in James Hinchcliffe. Did you have anything for him in those closing laps?
Yeah, my best bet for that was that he had 5-lap older Firestone primaries, and it was a little like when we raced around here back in 2010 in Indy Lights. He had a moment about 3 laps to go coming out of turn 3, got all crossed up, and I thought, all right, here we go, I had the run of all runs, and he defended to the inside into 5, and I thought, oh, he learned from 2010. So it's always fun racing with those guys, and you don't want to lean on them too hard in front of the Canadian fans, but a great result for the Carlin crew, the number 23 car, representing Novo Nordisk Canada and Diabetes Canada here in Ontario, the home and birthplace of insulin.
Speaking of throwback, 2012, your first podium in the Verizon IndyCar Series here on the streets of Toronto. You must like this place, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great city, and the fans are amazing. Coming up here, it's always a highlight for us. So much great support from little Caleb with Type 1 to the Novo Nordisk Canada crew out in Mississauga coming out to the racetrack. Have a lot of fun, and the racetrack itself's a blast, too.
Lots of positive improvements over here in the Carlin camp, Jan.
And the same for AJ Foyt Racing. Now, courtesy of a great start, a great restart, and probably most importantly, staying out of trouble, you get your best finish of the season and lift the spirits. You said it was so important this weekend for you to lift the spirits after Iowa of this team.
For sure, Jan. I think,
last weekend I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to park that car, but I also didn't want to crash. So I made sure I finished the race. You know, this time of the year, it's very tough on the guys. They're working nonstop, week in, week out. We're going to turn the cars around tonight to go to Mid-Ohio tomorrow to test on Tuesday. So I wanted to come here and have a good result. And this is the best result of the year for us so far. Everything went well. Pit stops were fine. The race was uneventful, and we made a good passes. So AJ's at home recovering. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a phone call from him that he's happy now, so he can come to Mid-Ohio.
Speaking of recovery, you look very fresh. We know we call you the Ironman. You've done triathlons. You've done the Ironman itself. But there are others here that can – I see some sitting in the shade with cold towels, and you look like you barely broke a sweat.
I love this. I love this weather. This is where I come from. This is why I train. So difficult days like this, it's when I think I can – my hard work at home pays off. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun. Keep bringing the heat. Keep bringing the heat.
All right, more heat for AJ Foyt Racing. A happy Tony Kanaan. Kevin?
Yeah, and I have a feeling it feels a lot hotter in the cockpit when you're racing, not in contention, a couple of laps down. First of all, thanks for hanging around with us, Will. Let's get back to the first issue. Before you got together with Alexander Rossi, we were just talking about that. What happened before that? Because I'm not sure that we really got a good look.
Yeah, actually in the last corner I brushed the wall and bent a rear toe link, so the car was a little bit out of whack. I didn't even know that I didn't even know we touched, Rossi and I. Like, I was just kind of trying to hang on, and then until we got a yellow to pit. So yeah, just man, I've never had so many. It's not a DNF, but it's like a DNF in a season. So still kind of, you know how this sport can go. So still gonna keep pushing away, man. Like, it's double points at the end there, and that can be a 100-point swing. So still in the game.
This was such a weird race with so much contact. Not only you had that early one, but then a much bigger one later on. What'd you see happening there?
Yeah, into turn one there, it was, I kind of had nowhere to go. It's a bunch of people that were in there. It's like, oh, yeah, nothing I could really do there. Yeah.
That's better than hitting someone, though, probably, isn't it?
It is better than hitting someone, just in the soft tires, yeah. Yeah, just to feel bad for the guys, all this work, and then I go and bend the toe length. So we'll be back at Mid-Ohio.
And Mid-Ohio is one of the few places that you've been to, really one of the two places you've been to more than a couple of times that you haven't won. How desperately do you want that one?
Yeah, I've been knocking on the door there for so many years, plenty of seconds and poles. So yeah, we'll go there. Definitely determined to have a good day.
All right, rest up. Tough day in the heat here at Toronto for Will Power. Finishes a couple of laps down in 18th.
So you heard Will Kev there talk about Mid-Ohio, and that's still on his list. Tony Kanaan and the team are off to test there. The guy standing in the middle is the master at Mid-Ohio. We'll tell you a little bit more about that when we come back.
Dixon will see the checkered flag for the third consecutive race.
Scott Dixon gets the double checkers and wins his 20th career race.
He's done it better than anybody.
He'll move to the top step of the podium as the twin checkers wave.
In a league of his own.
Victory for Scott Dixon, his fourth here at Mid-Ohio.
For the fifth time, Dixon dominates Mid-Ohio.
Scott Dixon just continues to stack them up.
Yes, I don't think that the competitors want to know that heading to Mid-Ohio, given what happened today. And we will see you on Sunday, July 29, and coverage begins at 3 o'clock Eastern. Now take note, it's on CNBC. CNBC to watch that man there, Scott Dixon, in action again at Mid-Ohio, going for win number 6. Incredible stuff, Robin Miller.
Lee, we're talking to Ryan Hunter-Ray, and we just talked about how this racetrack in Toronto always brings out just these crazy results and people hitting walls and stuff. Your little excursion didn't bend your car, and you sounded like Newgarden, like kind of a helpless feeling.
Yeah, all weekend I had rear lock, and I just came down there and I had some front lock, and I thought, okay, release, go back to it. Nope, front lock again, and I just kept eating up too much track. I couldn't believe it. I was running a comfortable third, probably would have finished second today, so that's down to me completely. It's a bummer, but we kept our heads down. I had to keep Dixon there behind me, trying to stay in the lead lap for the yellow. Sure that wasn't too fun for him. It wasn't fun for me either, but we were able to stay in front of them. I just feel bad for this 28 DHL team. You know, last weekend at Iowa, we had a suspension issue. This weekend, I put it in the tires, and you know, 2 weekends like that, you just can't afford to lose points like that when you're racing a guy like Dixon. But hi to my boys at home and hi to the wife. That was a bummer. I thought we were going to have a good one today. I thought at that start, right, 6th to 3rd, I guess that was the highlight of the day for me.
Do you think were marbles the biggest issue for you guys?
Marbles were a big issue. Once you got offline, you were almost a passenger. So we're hustling the car around here, and if you make a mistake literally, or if you try and get in by literally a foot too far into the corner, it's gone. I mean, and it's so rough, it's so hard to place the car, but that's this place. I mean, we have a lot of experience here. It's just, I'll be kicking myself in the rear end on this one for a little while. So, man, that's never gets old that way. That would have been a solid podium today, so really bummed for it. But hey, we're still in this thing. We can go out and win some races and be right in the mix.
All right, Ryan, thanks for your time. Jan?
Well, a solid day certainly for Zach Veach. Started 22nd and finished 7th. That's a good day in the office. But the first thing you told me was, toughest race you've ever done. Why?
This place is hard. It's tough. It's bumpy. It's hot, but incredible day. I mean, a lot of things went our right way. We didn't make any mistakes, and my engineer, Garrett Motherstead, my pit crew, they did an incredible job. They kind of helped me out a lot on this one.
It seemed to me that the key for you was threading in the restarts. In fact, we have a replay of that. This right here made up a lot of positions, and that took some patience.
Yeah, you know, I had reds on. A lot of people had black, so I just knew that I had to be aggressive this stint if I had any chance of getting ourselves out of the hole we put ourselves in. But, you know, it was just a great day for the relay car, and, you know, any second I get to be an IndyCar driver, I'm extremely thankful for. And days like these days just, you know, make you leave coming back for more.
And going down to turn 3 here, did you think about poking in the inside?
I did, but, you know, it's just, you got to hope they make a mistake in front of you, and they did. And honestly, I threw it inside DeMello here, and I thought that was a mistake on my part, but he gave it to me. So, you know, everything seemed to work out for us.
Awesome. That was fun to watch. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Great day. Katie?
And on a one-off race for Connor Daly with Harding Racing, it looked like he was on a way to a top 10 finish, but Connor, during that last stint, dropped down to a 13th place finish. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to thank these guys for the chance. I mean, you know, last minute, this is what I love doing. I love racing IndyCar. But we knew it was going to be a challenge. I mean, mechanically, this track, you know, that has a lot of, you know, difficult spots, very bumpy. But, you know, the 18 car just sort of really screwed us. You know, I don't know why he came out and just sort of parked it in front of us and tried to overtake him, and then he just pitted, but that closed up the gap to the guys behind. So it was just tough for me. I mean, on heavy fuel load, we just haven't quite got the compliance and the damper package to really be able to charge, you know, on that type of a situation. But I think we learned a lot, and, you know, we were in some good spots. We got screwed in a lot of different other spots, but you know, just happy to be here, and just super thankful for this opportunity for sure.
Overall, it was a very positive weekend for both you and the team. What does this mean for your future?
Yeah, I mean, we had some great things happen this weekend. I mean, I blew away my expectations 100%. I mean, you know, this is a one-car operation. We have no data. We didn't really know what to look at going into here, and we now know, I think, a few more things about what we need to do. I don't know what the future looks like, but I always come to the track with my helmet, so I'm ready.
And we'll see if we'll see him back in the number 88 later this season.
Katie, thanks so much. There were a number of personal bests or season bests out there. Case in point, Simon Pagenaud equaled his season best. Charlie Kimball got Carlin Racing's best ever. Look a little further down. Jordan King got his young IndyCar career best. So a positive day on a number of levels.
For sure. I mean, you look at Pagenaud kind of getting his season restarted. He's, you know, sitting 7th in points. He's come from way back in the championship. Huge for Wickens to do it along with Hinchcliffe in front of the hometown crowd. Paul, what do you see as you look through the results?
Well, I mean, guys like Marco. Marco had a fantastic drive today, and he just didn't have the fuel mileage to get to the end. But Ed Jones started off really bad and soldiered away to a 10th place finish. But, hey, good result for Connor Daly. But look in the back here. Power, Bourdais, Hunter Ray, Graham Rahal. They have got to be panicking a little bit. We're coming down to the end of the season here in the next 5-6 races, and these guys really have to make something happen.
It's a good point, Paul. Just 5 to go. A weekend off. There'll be some testing going on, as you heard Tony Kanaan say, but a weekend off racing, and then it's on to Mid-Ohio. And what started out as a 33-point advantage is now a whopping 62 to Scott Dixon.
And Lee, we go to Mid-Ohio. We talked about it already. Dixon very dominant at that track, but I do think Newgarden, I think Power, Pagano, they're going to have something to say about it. Even Rossi and Hunter Ray, Paul, I think they could factor at Mid-Ohio very strongly.
Absolutely. Mid-Ohio is always a tough physical race. It's always hot. It's always humid like it was in Toronto. But these guys right now are going to do some testing this week at Mid-Ohio. They got a weekend off to recover, and then we're going to be fully at it for the rest of the year.
As the graphic indicates, the big winner there today, in addition to Scott Dixon, was Simon Pagano, jumping up 2 spots. Marco Andretti, despite the frustrating result, worked his way back into the top 10. It was a tough day for Graham Rahal, but a very memorable day for us. Hope you feel the same way. There was so much going on here in Toronto today. Of course, the crowd heroes, James Hinchcliffe and Robert Wickens and Zach Clayman DeMello, they had things to remember. As we say thanks to Hotel X Toronto for providing today's interview location. Coming up next, it's World Cup Track and Field, Day 2 from London. And again, a reminder to join us for more of the Verizon IndyCar Series from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, July 29 at 3. On behalf of the entire team, congratulations, Scott Dixon.